Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the NXTGEN Racing World Tour Season 1 as brought to you on the sim racing platform known as Assetto Corsa Competizione on the PC. And tonight marks round 2 of the 8-round calendar. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back for more racing action. And you can see the schedule on screen tonight, times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT or UTC. And let's take you through tonight's schedule. In approximately 14 minutes time, so at 25 minutes past 7 this evening, we'll be getting underway with the drivers' briefing, where our drivers will be given the do's and don'ts by our drivers' briefing steward. I believe that is going to be the one and only Kevin Smith. We'll be hearing his lovely tones as always, and then that drivers' briefing will immediately give way to the qualifying session to determine our grid order for the race. Qualifying will kick off at 7:30. It'll be a 15-minute session as per the normal format, and it'll be a case that all of our drivers will be giving it their best to be the fastest over a single lap, to be right up there on the grid. After that, we make our way into the race, the one and only race of tonight, and that is the 90-minute feature race, which will kick off at 7:45. And of course, there'll be fast, frantic action, not just out on circuit in terms of battling, but also some strategic battling within the pit lane. Who is going to pick the right time to pit? And more on that in a little bit. After that, then, we'll be cooling down with some post-race podium interviews, talking with our top 3 finishers, as we always do, and you can expect those podium interviews to occur at approximately 9:20 tonight. Now, tonight's broadcast is being brought to you live on 3 media platforms. Firstly, if you are YouTube inclined, you can tune in via the official NXTGEN Racing YouTube channel. That is NXTGEN Racing on YouTube. Alternatively, you can tune in via Facebook if you're a Facebook user, via facebook.com/NXTGEN Official. You can check out there on the Facebook group. Or last but not least, if you are a Twitch user, you can always tune in via my personal Twitch channel, and that is twitch.tv/TX141. Now, who am I? Well, let me introduce myself for the uninitiated. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I'll be your commentator, bringing you all the racing action tonight and hosting your programme for tonight as well. Now, this series is not just brought to you by NXTGEN Racing, and we should point out that this series is brought to you by NXTGEN Racing in collaboration with the SimGrid and Coach Dave Academy, without whom we'd not be able to bring you this series. And let's introduce our primary and senior partners for this series, and we kick off with the SimGrid. So the SimGrid is a place for amateur and professional sim racers to compete against fellow drivers in leagues and endurance events for Assetto Corsa Competizione, and started to expand that into the world as well of R Factor 2, and also I do believe the occasional iRacing event as well, but primarily focused on Assetto Corsa Competizione on PC and also on the console platforms, with the arrival of the next generation version of Assetto Corsa Competizione onto the Gen 9 consoles. That's the PlayStation 5 and also the Xbox Series X as of today. That's absolutely fantastic news, of course, on Tuesday the 22nd of February 2022. Plenty of twos in there. But if you are interested, whether you're looking to compete in a league, which is a casual league, a more serious league, or something in between, or looking for just one-off endurance events or one-off races, the SimGrid is the place to go to for all races or sets of course competition, and you can check them out at www.thesimgrid.com. And the SimGrid support us in providing us with a collection of their stewarding team, a good number of members supporting our own stewards at NXTGEN Racing to make sure that the racing occurs in a fast, furious but fair fashion. At the end of the day, while some contact will be made between drivers, it is the case we want that contact to be as clean as possible, and if incidents do occur for any reason, then we will have our stewards from the SimGrid and also from NXTGEN making sure that penalties are awarded appropriately. We go from the SimGrid to the Coach Dave Academy, and at Coach Dave Academy, also known as CDA in short, named after, of course, David Perel, the infamous GT3, the Blancpain and GT World Challenge driver from South Africa, known to be driving in the Ferrari 488 GT3, and it is the case that Coach Dave Academy is the home of amateur and professional sim racers looking to up their game through coaching, setups and track maps. Whether you're looking to just gain a tenth of a second, a whole second, alternatively looking for a better way to set up the car to suit your driving style over a short or a long race distance, it is the case there is plenty of paid for and free material at Coach Dave Academy, plenty of information on offer, all the way down to setting up your sim racing equipment to get the best possible experience in terms of force feedback and also that feeling through the wheel. And if you're interested, why not check out CoachDaveAcademy.com today and take your racing to the next level. And Coach Dave Academy supporting us in running this series, providing us with back-end administration and helping us in running this event, much like we're the SimGrid, and will enable us to deliver on what is a fantastic series. Or at least after one round, it has been an absolutely fantastic series, and we have got plenty more action to come. Now, speaking of what's to come then, it is the case that last time out, as we take a look at the season ahead, we were at Circuit Zandvoort in North Holland in the Netherlands, in round number 1 on the 15th of February 2022. A round which, whilst we didn't see the heavens open up with rain, it was a very cloudy round and plenty of battling around the tight and twisty circuit. And, well, it was in the end one of those situations whereby we did have a runaway winner, albeit there was a little bit of a technical intervention with regards to that, and we'll come on to it in a short while. But today, round number 2, we are at Imola. We have gone from the Netherlands to Italy to the very famous circuit. Famous for a good number of reasons, most of them great, but also some dark days in motorsport, which we won't go into, but it is the case. Today is the 22nd of February 2022, and our drivers will be tackling the Imola circuit. After which, round number 3, we'll be going to Laguna Seca in the United States of America, and then to Kyalami for round number 4, to South Africa, then heading back to the United Kingdom for round number 5 at Snetterton, before Australia for round number 6 at Bathurst, the Hungaroring for round number 7, and last but not least on the World Tour, we return to Italy. So we're going to be staying in Italy today and then coming back right at the end for the final round at Misano on the 5th of April 2022. But we've got a long way to go before we get to Misano, and today we are at Imola. Now, we were talking about our drivers only moments ago, and as you look at the championship standings, we're looking at our top 10, we can see that after the opening round, it is Luke Whitehead, Luke the Ripper Whitehead, as he's also nicknamed, who is currently leading the championship there on 75 points. And, well, we were talking about the fact that in the end, it was a little bit of a runaway win. He was in a very close fight with Tinko van der Velde, but unfortunately, due to technical issues with Tinko van der Velde's car, his Mercedes, the engine giving way after approximately 30 minutes, it was the case that Luke Whitehead was given a significant amount of breathing space, and in the end was given the opportunity to bring home an absolutely brilliant win for the season opener. And that, of course, meant that Danila Cherepenin could come home in P2, who was running a very comfortable P3 and promoted to P2, showing absolutely brilliant pace and consistency, and just a little bit off of Whitehead and Tinko van der Velde. And you can imagine if Cherepenin can close that gap about 2 to 3 tenths of a second over the course of multiple laps, well, Cherepenin's going to be right up there, and we'll have to wait and see. Oleg Zavolobov in P3 there in the Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo, a brilliant display in the season opener with Harry Phillips and Vesfield completing the top 5 there, and it is the case. Both drivers in the Porsche 911 GT3R, much like Luke Whitehead, and demonstrating great handling capabilities in terms of getting to grips with and handling the Porsche GT3. Victor Nicolai there, P6, ahead of Timmy Latonen in P7, the Audi R8 driver, who saw the result really come out of nowhere for the Timmy Latonen, in the fact that it was one of those situations where he was constantly contesting for the bottom end of the top 10, and then the result really swung his way towards the end of the race, where his consistency and delivery of laps and staying out of trouble meant he was able to finish P7, with Mattia Vacca, Rafael Donardo, and Amadeo Castorino completing your top 10 there. Now, you'll notice beside our top 5 drivers, as well as their points on the right-hand side of your screen, is also the success ballast. Remember, it is the case that, well, we'll talk more about the round in a brief, the rule, I should say, in a brief while, but it is the case we have success ballast in this series, and you'll see there the 5 drivers with the ballast listed against them. It'll be Luke Whitehead, who takes 20 kilograms into tonight, Danila Cherepenin takes 16 kilograms, Oleg Zavolov 12 kilograms, Harry Phillips 8 kilograms, and Vesfield 4 kilograms. Everybody else is running with a car that does not have success ballast. And as we look outside the top 10, we can see Drago Simeon there in P11, just outside the top 10 right now. The BMW M4 driver having a good performance last time out of Zandvoort. I think hoping he can break his way into the top 10 tonight, much like Sebastian Apostel, who is in P12. And then we have David Borrega there in P13, the Bentley Continental driver, really making the nicknamed Boatley work at Zandvoort. Can he make it work again tonight? Luca Dogano at P14, the racing not going his way with a drive-through penalty right at the end of proceedings at Zandvoort, and where it is the case that Luca Dogano will be looking to revive his form here in round number 2. With Pavlo Denishenko there in P15, completing our top 15. And as we continue to go down the order, we see Andrea Facchini, Lucas Sidor, Marcus Fox, Vittorio Simeone, and Joe Coffin completing the top 20. Outside the top 20 there, we can see Giovanni Izzo leading the charge after the top 20 on 32 points with a 3-point advantage over Dominic Linker, with Joshua Allen a little bit further behind Christian Nembrini and Ivan Fornes, and it's Tobias Linden, Chris Zoiger, Gareth Mills, Cody Cosford, and Martin Van Munster completing the top 30. And then the last 5 drivers who should not be forgotten about here, and really the drivers who had a difficult day in the office, including Kevin Gelling with that early retirement in the Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo, and he'll be looking to come back strong tonight after they've repaired the engine and repaired the car, much like with Tinko van der Velde there, and Presley Martono also having technical issues with the Mercedes AMG. The Mercedes drivers really plagued with issues over the course of round number 1. Ivan Shomatinsky as well, and the Bentley Continental P34 there, and then Martin Ulrich having some difficulties, and we had the absence of Darren King, Simon Huber, and also Bobby Daniels, but we are expecting these drivers to be turned up tonight, and we look forward to seeing them. Now we go from our championship standings to our circuit, and we are, of course, as we mentioned previously, we're at Imola, or if you want it in full, the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari, the 17 corner circuit, I should say, although some would count the corners a little bit less, depending on how you treat the kinks, but 17 corners if you include all of the kinks around the circuit. Located in the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy, this circuit, as you can see from the circuit map provided to us by simracingwiki.com, a circuit consisting of a variety of 3 chicanes, each of them unique, starting off with Tamburello at turns 2, 3 and 4, a triple chicane whereby it is medium speed and about attacking the apex curves, maximum attack through those curves, and particularly in dry conditions, it's one of those situations whereby you want a car that can attack those curves comfortably and really abuse them to straight line the chicane. You can also see the connecting straight there between Tamburello and Villeneuve chicane, the second of the chicanes at turns 5 and 6, whereby the chicane is a much higher speed entry through turn number 5 for a sudden braking zone into turn number 6. Then you've got the run to Tosa, the hairpin at turn 7, before the run up the hill to Piratella, the sweeping downhill left-hander off camber left-hander, and then the run downhill in towards Aqua Minerale at turns 9 and 10. A very tricky double right, which is all about balancing the car and trail braking and also using the throttle to stabilise the rear end, particularly if you're in a mid-engine rear-wheel drive car, such as the Audi R8 or the Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. Next, the run uphill to the Auto Chicane, the slowest pair of corners on the circuit technically. The Auto Chicane turns 11 and 12, where it's got very nasty apex curves as well, and the car can bounce off of them before the run down through the kink of 13 into Ravazza at turns 14 and 15, the double left, and it's the run to the start-finish line there, going through the kink of 16, and the start-finish line effectively being on the kink of 17. And that's how we get to 17 corners. Now, as for our rules tonight, we can see here that the rules are the same as they were last time out. The balance of performance used for all cars featured in this series shall be the base 2021 variant, as brought to you on Assetto Corsa Competizione. And the success ballast here, well, we talked about the amounts being added earlier on, but as you can see, success ballast is applied to the top 5 finishers of each race, with said drivers carrying this ballast into the next race. So whoever wins tonight will take 20 kilograms in the car to the next race. Second place will take 16, third place 12, fourth place 8, and fifth place 4 kilograms. As for other rules, qualifying will mean that our drivers are not permitted to use return to garage whilst out on circuit. They must enter the pit lane before using this feature, also known as RTG. And in the race, there are 2 mandatory pit stops, which will require fuel to be added to the car. That's 1 litre minimum, but changing tyres is entirely optional. A driver could choose to do the entire race on a single set of tyres, or alternatively, they may go for the tyre change when they decide to. And there is no defined pit window as well. Drivers may choose when to pit. And of course, that means it's all about tactics. And we saw plenty of that at Zandvoort, where a number of drivers really using early undercut stops in order to try and get themselves clear of traffic, give themselves clear space, and go on the offensive. And it was the case that Timmy Latonen was one of those drivers who was able to pull that off very well and was rewarded in the end. But we go from rules and regulations and whatnot to our live pictures now. And as you can see here, ladies and gentlemen, we are currently just waiting for what is the driver's briefing to get underway in approximately 3 minutes time. But we look here to Luke Whitehead, the GTWR RHG, the Roman Grosjean Academy driver here, our championship leader right now. And well, it is the case that whilst he is in the lead at this point in time, he will be very aware of the fact that there's going to be one very fast and furious Dutchman in the form of Tinko van der Velde, the Williams esports driver here in all his colourful glory with his livery now loaded. And we're very grateful to working with Tinko van der Velde to get the livery sorted out on the car. And we can see as he makes his way down the pit lane here, it is the case that he will be looking to turn things around and get onto winning form tonight. But the other key thing as well, remember earlier I said about abusing the curbs here is very critical in the dry Imola? Well, you may be noticing a few spots of rain, or quite a lot of spots of rain. In fact, we've got a damp circuit right now, and the rain has come over very strong at the Imola circuit in the last couple of hours, and we are expecting rain for the majority of tonight, if not all of tonight. And if the circuit does dry up, well, that is only going to throw a bigger conundrum into the race, particularly with those 2 mandatory pit stops, because you won't want to pit until you can change off of wet tyres and on to slicks, if you will. And that's something that's going to be on the mind of all of our drivers as they are getting themselves set right now with only minutes to go before the qualifying session. And well, we go from our top 2 in the our top 2 in terms of pace that we saw last time at Zandvoort to the second driver in the championship right now, and that is Danila Cherepenin, the S&P Racing esports driver, who you can see there parked up on the jacks in the pit lane. We can't see him too clearly, to be fair, but there you go, you can see him a little bit better now, and he will be looking to make his claim that he wants to be on the podium once again and try and take the scalp of Whitehead and also Van der Velde. But will he be able to do it? That is the big question. With right now, it is the case that Drago Simeon is the fastest man of anybody in this final practice session, but do keep in mind it is a practice session and it's not necessarily indicative of the pace we may be seeing in qualifying here in these conditions. Now, we are just waiting for that driver's briefing, of course, and in fact I think I'm getting the word in my ear right now the driver's briefing is about to get underway, so I'm just going to very gradually sneak my way into the driver's briefing room on our Discord server, the NXTGEN Racing Discord server. And as I do sneak my way in here, I'm just going to make sure I don't deafen people when I put myself available to hear what's being said. Indeed, well, my microphone is still muted, ladies and gentlemen, so I won't be deafening any of our drivers, but they are all gradually making their way into the driver's briefing room right now, and we are only a moment's away, approximately 30 seconds away from that driver's briefing, as I believe will be brought to you by Kevin Smith once again, the NXTGEN Racing Assetto Corsa Competizione series organiser, the brains and smarts behind the operation, behind the World Tour, and it is now 25 minutes past 7, and any moment he should be taken to the room for the all-important driver's briefing. And, well, I'm just waiting to see if he's going to pop in. And, well, in the meantime, whilst we're waiting, of course, be sure to let me know in the chat, whether you're on Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook. I can see all the chats. Do let me know who you are cheering on tonight and who you are rooting for and expecting to take the prizes tonight in terms of the maximum possible points for the win. As what I can see, majority of drivers are in the room right now, and we are only 1 or 2 away, as we have just had Chris Zoiga join the room as well. They're all just sneaking in right now, getting in those last couple of minutes of practice. And to be fair, some of our drivers being a little bit cheeky. To be fair, though, if a driver does miss the driver's briefing, they will be, as I understand it, disqualified from qualifying and have to start at the back. But as we are continuing to wait, any moment now, Kevin Smith should be popping into the room. I think some of our drivers just having a bit of difficulty getting out of the cars. And that difficulty being to the wet conditions and then having to run up to the virtual driver's briefing room. We are still waiting at the moment, and very shortly we've just got a couple more drivers making their way on in. I think everybody is now in the driver's briefing room, and they're just waiting for Kevin Smith to arrive and shut the door behind him, so that way he can give us all the rules and regulations. Excuse me, specifically for tonight. And here is Kevin Smith. He's just joined in the briefing room, and he will now be laying out the law for tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back for round 2 tonight at Imola. Just a quick one to run over. Any live student appeals put in last week will be looked at and posted after the race. The reason for this is, of course, we're using the SimGrid stewards, and with them student other events and of course work, it's tough to catch up to them over the weekend. So we will get that out as soon as possible, and any alterations will be reflected in the points. We'll make you aware. So for tonight we are expecting a wet circuit. How wet it will get, or how dry should we say, we will see over the course of the race. Please bear in mind, of course, the weather can change and we aren't in control of that. Pit exit and pit entry. Pit exit, please don't go over the white line. Run the pit exit all the way until the line stops. Anyone cutting across the line will be penalised if caused the incident, so please, of course, avoid this. Pit entry as well, please hold the right hand side coming out the final corner to make it clear to other drivers that you are intending to make your pit stop. There will be no return to garage during qualifying as well, so you must actually drive a car back into the pits. Once you're over the pit speed limiter line, you can then return to garage. This is the only time you can do it. Or if you do have an incident, of course it's wet and we know you're all pushing for good times, and your car's undrivable, please just let us know and then return to garage so you don't get disqualified from qualifying for doing so. And I believe that is it, everyone. If anyone has any questions, please put them in the general chat. We'll get these answered as quickly as possible, and we will forwards to qualifying in approximately 2 minutes. Good luck, everyone. Now free to leave.
So that was the driver's briefing, ladies and gentlemen. As we return to our line pictures, you can see all of our drivers are lined up in the pit lane. They're absolutely fantastic to see them all in their stellar array of colours and whatnot as they are waiting to go racing. And what we heard there from Kevin Smith, making it very clear that with the wet conditions here at Imola, we're very, very focused on the pit entry and pit exit, particularly the pit exit white line. And also on pit entry, drivers need to make it very clear that they are pulling into the pits by staying to the right on the exit of Ravazza or Ravazza 2 at turn number 15. We have also had a question with regards. In fact, we did have a question from Joshua Allen, albeit we couldn't hear it because he typed it in chat to say, can we cross the pit exit white line if there are no cars coming? And only if there are no cars approaching. But again, that will be still quite frowned upon. And well, I think stewards will err on the side of caution. So with all the rules and regulations made, and we have had further confirmation, there is no return to garage permitted in qualifying, as we say, until a driver actually pulls into the pits and gets beyond the pit limiter line. Then they can use quote-unquote return to the garage to jump back into their garage slot. Everything is now set, and well, with that, we are only moments away from going qualifying, and when we do, it's going to be a big question of who is going to be on pole. But whilst we are waiting, we check in with you guys and girls in the chat, and we can see in the YouTube chat, plenty of you in the YouTube chat, which is always great to see. We have Simone Farina there. Good evening to you, Simone. We've also got Giuseppe Mazzei, I should say, and cheering on the Cortec Racing 1 team there, which is absolutely great to see. And well, I can definitely tell is the case as we are now going racing, and we get the thumbs up here that it is green, green, green all the way through. And now all the drivers peeling out the pits here, and the rain about the same as it was in the practice session, to be honest. Not too much has changed here as all our drivers make the way out in fast fashion. A little bit of wheel spin there from one of our BMW AM4s as he makes his way out the pits, but everyone frantically making their way on out. We also say hello in the YouTube chat to Andrea DeLollo, and we've also got, I believe that may be Kevin Smith there representing NXTGEN in the YouTube chat, and we have also got Renz Schroeder there saying let's go, indeed, let's go qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. But we don't forget about the Twitch chat as well. We've got Laggerty27 tuning in via Twitch saying go, go, go Jokers, and I believe he may be cheering on the Jokers esports team, particularly the Spaniard of what is one. If we just try and find the Spaniard out the circuit, and that is Ivan Fornes here as number 56 driver makes his way through West Villeneuve and up into Tosa. But right now, good to see you all tuning in, and well, if you are in the chat right now, do not be shy, feel free to say hi. We don't bite here, just say hello and let me know how you're doing and well, what you're excited for in this race. It's great to see so many of you tuning in, as I do say. But now the focus on qualifying, and of course with these wet conditions, this could really shake up the qualifying session for the simple reason many of our drivers will be used to qualifying in dry conditions. Obviously, when you go qualifying, you normally do enjoy having those nice clear conditions where you've got low fuel in the car. The circuit's got optimum grip, there's plenty of rubber being laid down, and you can push it very hard. But in the wet, you have none of that. You don't have any marbles that hold on the circuits. We do see Cody Cosford there really trying to squeeze his way through multiple drivers as he comes down to Aqua Minerale. And the Team Ballers eSport driver really in a hurry-up mode here, really wanting to get a move on in this qualifying session. And the one thing about Imola in particular in qualifying is that this is a circuit that is very tight in general for qualifying, and you don't want to get caught up behind other drivers. As we do say hello to RS there in the YouTube chat, who is cheering on Cortec Racing 1. And well, to give you an idea where the Cortec Racing drivers are right now, they're quite spread out around the circuit. But here is Rafael Donato as he makes his way down in towards Ravazza, but we look from him to the number 189 car of Andrea Ficini as he comes on through. And right now going across the timeline is Ivan Fornes, who we ride on board with for the purposes of this opening qualifying lap as we take you around Imola. So going for the Tinko 1 and up into the braking zone of turn number 2 here, into the Tamburello chicane, rolling the car into the apex of 2 before stamping back on the throttle at 3, and then settling the car before accelerating through the left-hander of 4 here. And normally you'd be flat out almost on the exit 4, but having to balance the throttle there due to the wet conditions. Now coming down into Villeneuve, you see trail braking in before stamping on the anchors there and using a bit of the apex of turn 6 to pull the car through the corner before now making his way up into Tosa. Braking into the hairpin here, a cambered corner. You've got to really abuse the camber here, albeit not the apex curve in these wet conditions because it won't offer the grip or the rotation that you'd love. It will offer too much rotation. Now charging out to Tosa and up towards Piratella here, coming up through the brow and now in to the left hand, braking at the 50-meter board and coming down the gearbox. A little bit apex curve there is useful, but not too much, otherwise it launches the car. And now rolling down into Aqua Minerale. Trail braking in here through turn number 9 and then get back on the throttle to settle the car before braking more aggressively into turn 10, attacking the apex there to force the car through the right-hander and now making his way up towards the Alta chicane. The slides 2 corners of the circuit here as he comes into the chicane, braking there just before the 50-meter board, approximately 65 metres, and coming all the way down, riding over the apex curves there, making sure to take enough curve but not too much as to launch the car. And now the long run down towards the Ravazza here, coming down through the kink of turn number 13 through the right-hander and now braking in a straight line at the 100-meter board, and you have to straighten the steering wheel otherwise the car will let loose at the rear, particularly if the car has got its engine towards the rear, Going through Ravazza 1, through Ravazza 2 here, getting back on the throttle as soon as possible and charging down towards the timeline here through the two rankings of 16 and 17. And here comes Ivan Fornes, and he's not the first driver to take a time across the line, but he will be one of the first. And what the lap's going to be, where is Ivan Fornes in the end, who sets a 46.6, the opening lap, and well, we're going to have plenty of laps come on in, that is for certain, as we see Joshua Allen coming across the line here, and Allen a whole second down so far, but there's plenty of lap time to be gained here. And looking at the weather forecast right now, with only an ambient temperature of 15 degrees centigrade and a track temperature of 20 degrees, I do think the rain is going to settle. It's not going to burn too rapidly. The rain's actually quite light, to be fair, so we will see a dry line form quite early in this qualifying session, but I think it is the case there will be a one and only dry line, and our drivers will need to stick to as much as possible to get the best possible time. But whilst our best lap so far, well, it's Luca Dogano, now the Cortec Racing, and one driver from Italy here, who I can safely say his livery is now all working as expected, all the Cortec drivers in their full colours, and as he makes his way down into the braking zone for turn number 2 and through 3, it is the case that Luca Dogano right now the fastest man out of everybody so far, but we've still got plenty of times to come on in as our drivers continue to make their way on around right now, and that is really the unpredictability of this qualifying session. As I think Joe Coffin's had a bit of an off, and yep, Joe Coffin's got it very wrong there, and that looks to be at Villeneuve as he stays wide, and will the long-live the DFGT driver here having a bit of a moment, but in these conditions, of course, very tricky, pushing very hard, and as he makes his way around right now, he is the slowest of our drivers in terms of a lap time that has been set. But as we look from one Porsche to another, we can see Luke Whitehead here making his way towards the end of his current qualifying lap, and what can the Briton do? Our championship leader after round number 1. He comes down into left-hander of turn number 14 through Ravazza 1 and into Ravazza 2. Will he be able to set the pace, as Luca Dogano is still the fastest of everybody? And as we can see here, it is the case that Whitehead making his way across the timing line as he comes to the line. What's it going to be? He's currently P20, but he has no time against his name. As he crosses the line, he goes P3. But I can tell you right now, whilst that's impressive and a 10th of the fastest lap, Sebastian Apostle coming across the line now, and he has set a 46.265. And it is the case the West Competition Racing driver raising the bar, but notice how when we look at the helicopter camera in particular, you'll see, ladies and gentlemen, a dry line starting to form. What you're really looking for is you're looking for the more lightly coloured section of the circuit, if you will, and that is where that dry line is forming. You can see it there on the outside into turn number 5, and now as they come through the centre of the run from 5 to 6 through Villeneuve, that's where the dry line is, and the driver who can essentially go onto a qualifying lap right at the end, and now that lap, when that dry line is at its driest, I know I'm saying dry a lot in a single sentence, but trust me, that is where the lap is going to be the ultimate lap here in qualifying. And I think a number of drivers will be waiting for this. They'll put in banker laps, but they'll know the best possible lap they can achieve is right at the end of this qualifying session, because the forecast right now is it is going to be the same standard of rain for the next 30 minutes. We're not seeing higher variability in the rain layout at the moment, so as a result, as the rain falls, it's not going to make that dry line disappear. That dry line is only going to be more prominent as we now move into the second half of the qualifying session in 30 seconds time. But right now, as we do continue to watch Sebastian Apostle here making his way on through and looking to improve his current lap, it's down on his previous best at 46.2. And well, in terms of talking to drivers in the build up to tonight, one thing I can definitely say is not too many drivers were available. I think it was the case as I was walking down the paddock and trying to catch the attention of some of the drivers. At first, everyone seemed quite open, but when they saw that the rain was on its way, a lot of drivers immediately jumped into their cars or were working with their pit crews and also with their engineering staff to work out what was the best setup for the car. But one driver I did have the opportunity to catch up with, a very friendly chap, and it's the German driver from the Boatley Boys team here of David Boeger, and it is the case that currently P19 on what is a lap that's only 1.1 seconds, to be fair, off of pole position. That shows you how close this field is in these conditions. It was the case the Bentley driver was saying to me in the build up to tonight is that Imola is a bit of a chalk and cheese circuit, because if you mess up one corner's entry, you immediately lose at least half a second. And indeed, Imola, one of those tracks which demands so much precision, you have to nail every corner, not just in terms of the apex or your braking zone, but also getting on the throttle. At Tosa, for example, you want to be on the throttle a lot earlier than you would at a non-cambered hairpin, for the simple reason you can gain so much time by getting on the throttle. Even if it is only a tenth of a second earlier getting on the throttle than you'd be used to, you gain more than that in terms of overall lap time. And well, it is echoed through the Boatley Boys driver here as he makes his way into Aqua Minerale. He's saying that with the forecast, he was expecting there to potentially be rain with the forecast that was mentioned prior to the round. And, well, he's expecting a lot of corners to be messed up in terms of the standard lines you'd use, or alternatively the amount of curb you would use through the corners. And I'll try as well to be careful of standing water on some of the curbs here. And it's hard for him to make a prediction, indeed for many drivers to make a prediction. And since parts of the track are suiting him and other parts do not, he's not sure what to expect for himself. And throwing to that the mixed conditions, and will that expectation, that prediction goes out the window even more. He is hoping for a lot of cars on the tracks. There's going to be no standing water. He wants more drivers to be here, so that's why we do get that prominent dry line and the standing water does go away. And well, he does feel that the Boatley does not like the amount of water, even though we always refer to it as the Boatley or the Bentley, if you will. And he's hoping for a clean and close racing as far as the water on the track allows, and that he doesn't screw it up. Well, indeed, right now he hasn't screwed it up. He does improve to P16, now only 9.5 tenths over the fastest lap of this session. And another driver who's only one place down, to be fair, right now, and that is Joshua Allen, who's bumped into a bit of traffic there, and I think that's Sebastian Apostel he's bumped into, who's just in front of him. The Pulse Simsport driver here, the British driver, was saying to me into the build-up to tonight is that he hasn't been feeling 100% in the build-up to tonight, but he's still racing. And his thoughts on the legendary Imola track are that it's got absolutely amazing corners, particularly the sequence of turns 9 and 10, known as Aqua Minerale. It's just absolutely awesome. But he's saying, let's see what the conditions are though, because if it's not dry on the night last week, then I think he'll just be able to cope with the rain. He was saying to me, he feels the car is nice. The McLaren 720S is nice around here, but it's just a little bit slow, and these conditions make it a bit slow. And to be fair, the McLaren, a very strong car here at Imola if it's not exposed to the curbs. It's not a car that does well on curbs, but it is a car that does very well through direction change and also fast flying sequences. And you can imagine that Joshua Allen will be looking to make that McLaren sing praises about its directional change capabilities as he comes across that timeline with 5 minutes to go here in the qualifying session, but does not improve this time, and he's still got more to do. The only other driver I briefly caught up with, although I did have to maintain my distance a little bit from him when I was trying to catch up with him to do an interview, was Tobias Linden, the SLS racing driver from Sweden. And the reason for that is, unfortunately, he has contracted COVID-19, but he is racing right now, and I can assure you we did have a socially distant conversation when I interviewed him, but he was saying that with regards to tonight, he's going to give it his best. He really did enjoy round number 1. He was a little bit anxious going into the round as to how he would perform, and whilst he's down there in terms of the overall lap times and not quite competing for the best of the prizes, he's going to enjoy the racing. And well, he does look like he's enjoying himself right now as he makes his way through Villeneuve there, and his current best lap is 1.9 seconds off of the fastest on a 54.6. Well, 54.6 was the last lap he did. My apologies, that would be a bit far. A 48.0 is the best lap he's done today, and he'll be looking to try and improve as much as possible. But those are the 3 drivers I had the chance to catch up with. Beyond that, however, didn't have a chance to catch up with too many. And right now, as we focus back to this session, we can see that right now provisional pole is being held by Luca Dogano, the Cortec Racing 1 driver here from Italy, as we do see Harry Phillips ahead of him, just going a little bit sideways there, coming through the Alta chicane. And will Dogano a 10th up on Sebastian Apostel, but to be fair right now, it is the case that Apostel is on the fastest lap of anyone at the moment. He is up significantly as we do look to Sebastian Apostel here, the M4 driver, and I think we could be looking at a potential shootout between Dogano and Apostel for pole position. That front row, although do not count out Drago Simeon, who in P3 only 2.5 tenths down on the pair of them, as he makes his way around the Sebastian Apostel right now. And will this be an improvement? Well, it's not an improvement from Dogano this time around. I think that was a bit more of a sighting lap, as we do see here Apostel making his way to the timeline. He's holding to the right, he's straight lining in to that timeline, and it is provisional pole snatch back here for Sebastian Apostel on what is a 46.142, only by 13 thousandths of a second there, and that shows you how close it is. And in the rest of the field right now are 3 tenths or further back, and that's absolutely fantastic to see the variance. And do keep in mind, of course, that right now some of our drivers such as Harry Phillips do have some success ballast in the car. Harry Phillips with 8 kilograms of success ballast, and that ballast will be taking some of the lap time out of the vehicle. And well, to be fair, even with the success ballast, currently P5, and the Porsche 911 does do quite well in these wet conditions. It has got the engine located as far to the rear of the car as possible, and that does give it some rear stability through the corners, albeit it is the case as well, the Porsche, very tricky car to drive in terms of the tyre wear and its tyre temperatures. But as we do see here, Harry Phillips making his way down and around through Aqua Minerale right now. It has to be said that if he's starting on the 3rd row, P5, I think he'll be very happy with that, because the one thing we do know about the Wild Things Racing driver, and we've seen it time and time again in previous next-gen racing series on the Assetto Corsa Competizione, this is the man who knows how to make a set of tyres last the distance, whether it's in wet conditions or dry conditions. He will make the tyres work. And if anybody remembers back to, I think it was the European GT3 Series Season 2 that we hosted, he was the man in the Nürburgring finale, the 2-hour finale, who in the wet conditions, the absolutely ferocious conditions, made the set of wet tyres last the entirety of 2 hours, whereas everybody else pitted and changed their tyres at some point, and that was how he was able to pull off an absolutely superb second place finish in the end and come home second in the championship then. And I think that's what he might be targeting again today, to make those tyres last a long time. As he comes across the line, he moves up to P3. There does Harry Phillips, a 46.4, and he's only 200s faster than Drager Simone right now. The West Competition Racing driver will need to fight back on this one, but we look a bit further down the order, and well, the big names from round number 1, whereas Luke Whitehead, for example, he is currently P12 as he is demoted down a little bit further, and it is the case that right now I think Whitehead really feeling the pinch of that 20 kilograms of success ballast in the back of that Porsche, as he's not quite comfortable for a top 10. But to be fair, Whitehead is putting in a good amount of qualifying time right now, really is finding some pace out there. He is 6 tenths down on the overall fastest lap, but that 6 tenths is not too much, as he is pushed down a little bit further as more laps continue to come on him. And Whitehead continues to push on, as we have got just under a minute left now. Track temperature has come up by a degree, which we would expect given the number of cars running around on circuit, but there's still plenty more qualifying time here, and a lot of drivers will be getting themselves set up now for their final laps this race. But one driver who a little bit of a surprise and a long way down the order and out of place a little bit, Timmy Latonen right now, currently P23, the Finnish driver, just setting his best lap of this qualifying session at 47.475, but the Audi R8 driver really struggling here, and we do know the Audi is a very particular car with regards to conditions. It does very well in the dry or just when it's cloudy, but when the rain comes, the Audi can be quite a handful, and it does look as though Latonen is not having the best days. We see just a little bit of instability on turning there into Villeneuve coming into the corner, turn number 5. The fast left-hander is the case that no, just not wanting to bite, and I think Latonen is really battling against the car, and it may be he's hoping that the conditions will dry up in the race, and perhaps he's running a dry setup right now with some slight tweaks to accommodate wet conditions. But with that in mind, the qualifying session is now complete, and we are waiting to see how it all ends. We look from Latonen to Apostle, who making his way around right now, will peel into the pits. Well, a little bit further back there, I think we've also got what is one of the S&P Racing esports drivers coming into pits. That's Cherepenin, but what about Tinko van der Velde? Well, the Williams esports driver here, the Dutchman, he's currently P12. Can he improve as he makes his way on around, or will it be the case it's a bridge too far to get himself up into the top 10? And Tinko van der Velde, of course, will be wanting to fight back as much as he possibly can tonight, given the fact that he lost out due to that technical retirement in race number 1, and we want that momentum. So Luke Whitehead right now is P13 at best. We are also continuing to look around. I can tell that Luca Dogano is not an improving that way, and Luca Dogano is on a lap to match Apostle. We will come to Luca Dogano, who's a bit earlier on his lap, but we're looking at Tinko van der Velde right now as he makes his way through the final 2 major corners of Ravazza 1 and Ravazza 2. Can he improve as he comes on out? He goes a little bit deep and wide there. He is going to finish this lap, and I do think that Tinko van der Velde is on for a personal best as he comes on through. What's it going to be? He crosses the line, and it is. It's not an improvement in the end, but one driver who is improving right now, he's just gone through the auto chicane, and he's currently going purple on my timing screens, which you can't quite see. They're off picture at the moment. It is the case of Luca Dogano, currently the fastest man of anybody on this final lap. Can he dethrone Sebastian Apostle, or will it be the case that the Cortec Racing driver misses out right at the end? He's got one more major corner to go, as we see there. What is David Brega going a bit sideways, but he moves out of the way. That'll give Dogano a little bit of a toe on the run, and he's going to stay all the way over to the right here. It's going to be a long run. It's going to be the longest run of his life. But as he comes across the line, is it enough? It's not enough in the end. It's P2. So it is Sebastian Apostle who takes pole position in this qualifying session by only 13 thousandths of a second. And now we get ready to go racing, ladies and gentlemen, as all of our drivers are now get themselves set on the grid. But my goodness, what an absolutely tight qualifying session from start to finish. But it is this man, Sebastian Apostle, in the end, who got the job done. And well, I think as we look inside the cockpit right now of our pole sitter, this will be a major opportunity for him to try and deliver on what has been a great start to his evening at Imola. Can he nail it? Now, we are hearing that the rain is going to increase in the next 10 minutes, and it's going to be heavy rain for some time, and that may be factored in right now to a number of drivers who are getting their setups underway with regards to the cars, as we do look to the helicam here. So let's take you through that grid order. It's Sebastian Apostle and Luca Dogano lining up on the front row. Behind them, Rafael Donato and Ivan Fornes, with the Jokers esports driver there, P4, and he'll be very happy with that. And I can see a number of you in what is the Twitch chat there Very happy to see that. Will particularly at Dumont and also at Laggerty at 27 in the Twitch chat. Very happy with Fornes. And then we do have Oleg Zabolov and Harry Phillips there in what is the third row. And then we do have Ivan Shermatinsky and what is Dragos Simeon in the fourth row. And then behind them it is Victor Nicolai and Amadeo Castorino on the fifth row. Danila Cherepenin and Tinko van der Velde on the sixth row. Then it is Luke Whitehead and alongside him Giovanni Izzo. And then it will be Christian Nembrini line up P15 with Mattia Vaca alongside him on the 8th row. Then we have Chris Soiger and Timmy Latonen in the end. Latonen putting in a last ditch lap to get to P18, Chris Soiger alongside him. And then on our 10th row, complete our top 20 is Joshua Allen and Vittorio Simeone. Behind them and outside the top 20, P21 is David Brigger, the Bentley driver, not having a good time in qualifying. And alongside him Kevin Gannon, the Ferrari. And then on row at number 12 it is Joe Coffin and Martin Ulrich. And then it will be Marcus Fox and what is Cody Cosford on row number 13. And then on row 14 it is Andrea Fraccini and Tobias Lindem. And then on row number 15 we do have Pavlo Devashenko and Gareth Mills. And then last but not least on the final row on his lonesome is Martin Van Munster, the MVM Designs SAS Racing team driver, and it has not quite worked out for him here today, and I think he'll be looking to improve as much as possible as he can in the race here. But of course what doesn't work out in qualifying for some drivers can work out in the race, and one driver who will know that very well right now is one Danila Cherepenin, as we do look on board here with the S&P Racing Esports driver in the Mercedes. This qualifying session, well, he does, to be fair, have 16 kilograms of success ballast in the car, and he will be looking to deliver as much as he possibly can as he gets ready to go racing here. As we also do say hello in the Twitch chat there to JP Zeng, who's cheering on what is Ivan Fornes, and also the 9 job there in the Twitch chat cheering on Team Porsche. Well, I think just enjoying Team Porsche 911 GT3Rs. But as we look here from Danila Cherepenin to a bit further down the order, we do see what is Joe Coffin here, all the way down in P23. We just try and get a camera on him. We can't quite, unfortunately, but Joe Coffin starting quite a way down the back there, and I think he'll be trying to dig in deep in the races. We are 2 minutes away from the manual double file rolling start formation lap kicking off, and well, everybody absolutely itching to go. As well, we do look a bit further up the order, and it is the case that right now for one Oleg Zalobov, it is going to be a situation whereby I think the S&P Racing Esports driver, who is in the Ferrari, he'll be looking to try and capitalise on what has been a good qualifying session, but at the same time it hasn't quite gone the way of his teammates, and I think he will be looking to try and gain as much ground as possible. Although I do say that just behind him, in fact, is his teammate Ivan Shermatinsky in the Bentley, and you can see him just there, the rather colossal machine by comparison with the Ferrari in front. And they'll be looking to have a good start to this race, as indeed will all of our drivers. And of course the run down to turn 2, the run down towards what will be the Tamburello chicane, a very long run. Particularly when our drivers are up to speed, they'll be going into there on a standard lap in excess of 160 mile an hour if they are in the slipstream, or around 160 mile an hour in these race conditions. And it is going to be fast and furious between all of our drivers, as we are just waiting now. Only a minute to go here at Imola in round number 2 of the NXTGEN Racing World Tour and Assetto Corsa Competition. And place your bets, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't already given me a forecast of who you're cheering on and who you expect to win, do place your bets now, as once we get racing, indeed all bets are off, particularly with the variable rain conditions and more rain on its way in the next 10 minutes, and then in 30 minutes time even more rain on top of that. So this weather variability is going to be hitting all of our drivers massively, as we do look to the helicam once again here, and we see Mattia Vaca, the Team Bullers Esport driver. Well, we're starting P16, but we know Team Bullers, a team which really dig deep and do very well in race conditions. A bit less so in qualifying in the past, but they will be looking to try and deliver everything they can as they get ready to go racing. But right now, as we do wait here, only moments to go, we look to the front of the field, and it will be to Sebastian Apostle to take us away from the manual double fold rolling start formation lap here. The BMW driver will kick off the proceedings as he pulls away from the start-finish line. And a very aggressive launch now. I think Sebastian Apostle trying to say something. I think he's absolutely itching to go racing, the West Competition Racing driver, and will absolutely kicking the car off there and almost spinning it. But it is the case that I think he just wanted to get some temperature in straight away, as all of our drivers start to make their way around the rather drenched Imola circuit. And as we look a bit further down the order to Vittorio Simeone here, down in P20, where you can see it is the case that the Italian driver qualifying not going too well, and he will be looking to try and build things back up under the race conditions. The Renegade SRW driver, and well, we did see him last time out at what was Zandvoort putting in a good midfield performance, and can he deliver again tonight? As you do see there in the YouTube chat, we have NXTGEN Ultra saying the weather is for sure going to be a factor in this race for strategy. Indeed it is, as all of our drivers right now will be hoping, well, some will be hoping the wet weather stays, some will be hoping it intensifies, and others will be hoping that it goes away completely. It's a gamble, of course, but we do believe on the weather radar after the next 30 minutes the rain is going to continue, or at least that is the rumour we're hearing in the forecast. And if so, that means we are going to have quite the wet race all the way through. As we also say hello to Team Bullers Esports there in the YouTube chat, saying that Forza Ragazzi, and it is the case that right now, as we look from what is P20 down to P30, we see Gareth Mills here, the GM4 racing driver here, as he makes his way down. GM Racing with the number 4 in between, he is the number 4 car. And right now, Gareth Mills, of course, starting towards the back. He'll be looking to try and make some ground early on in this race and try to get himself a little bit further up the field. Of course, the nice thing about where he's starting is if anything does kick off into the opening couple of corners, he'll be very aware of it. He'll see the yellow flags well before he comes up to the instant, or at least he'll be hoping. And just a little bit ahead of him, of course, is we've got Pavlo Denishenko here. And to be fair, Denishenko, the Team Bullers Esports driver, very strong at Zandvoort, and his qualifying session just has not worked out here today. And I wonder whether the Ukrainian might be just feeling that these conditions are a little bit tough, and as a result, he needs to try and settle things down in the race. We'll have to wait and see. But Denishenko was a bit further up there in the dry conditions at Zandvoort, and perhaps we have seen a weakness of the Bentleys exposed in these wet weather conditions, as we heard from David Boeger earlier talking about that, the German driver who's a little bit further up the road. But we look from the back of the field to the front of the field once again, as we do see the pack now making their way through Alta, and as we do look to the helicam, it is the case that now all starting to build up in the run down towards Ravazza here. And you can see, for example, Giovanni Izzo in P13, the Cortec Racing 1 driver here, closing up behind. Indeed, they'll be pulling into the double file formation in short order very soon, as we do have a number of the Cortec Racing machines all trying to get themselves set in place. Chris Soiger there, P17, the Swiss driver, is a case of CHF Motorsport driver. He does thrive in these changing conditions, and well, he'll be looking to absolutely nail it from the start. As we now look to the front of the grid here, and it is as they make their way out of the final corner, it is going to be to Sebastian Apostel to take us away for 90 minutes of racing here in round number 2 at Imola. And now we just wait for the green flag. And it's lights out and away we go for round number 2 of the World Tour. Sebastian Apostel gets a good start here with Luca Dogano trying to close, but losing out initially in the run up towards turn number 2. And as they all come charging up into the corner, we look to the helicam as everybody clusters on in. It's a big concertina effect here, but everybody making their way through the opening chicane very well. Absolutely brilliant to see, although we do see a free wide though, the William Esports machine, the Tinko van der Velde, who loses out considerably, but everybody has navigated their way on through so far successfully, and no major incidents. But as we look from the back of the field towards the front, it is the case we can see Apostel breaking away, as meanwhile we do have Castorino here who's caught up behind. Where's Harry Phillips, who's had quite a weak start by comparison, losing out as they make the way on through. But now as we come down from the helicopter here, you can see that Harry Phillips battling with what is there, battling side by side with Simeone as they make the way on up and in towards turn number 8, up in towards Piratella. And as they roll on through, he yields there in P7 as he makes his way on through the left-hander. But everybody so far staying in good formation here, and nobody in a major incident. But we have seen some chops and changes around the field as they all come down to Aqua Minerali for the first time of asking. And as they do here, everybody lying astern as they come down. Nobody would dare go for a move side by side for Aqua Minerali this early in the race, particularly in these wet conditions. In dry, it's dangerous enough as it is, or daring enough we should say, but in these wet conditions even more so. Major concertina effect there up into the Alta chicane, and it does look as though we've got a bit of contact down there. Cherepenin being forced wide, Chris Soiger as well having a run off there and dropping down the order. And as he tries to get himself back up to speed now in the run down, we do look a little bit further up the road, and you can see it's the mad 2x2 hurrah hurrah with Luke Whitehead here trying to go for the move versus Cherepenin, and what is Tinko van der Velde trying to come through versus Giovanni Izzo. And it is the case now, Izzo has got his teammate behind him, Christian Nembrini, as they come out of Ravazza to complete lap number 1. So after the opening lap, it's Sebastian Apostle who still leads by 0.6 of a second ahead of Luca Dogano in P2. We then have Ivan Fornes in P3 with Donato P4, then Oleg Zavolov behind P5, then Drago Simo in P6, followed by Harry Phillips P7, who's falling back from the top 6 right now, and I think feeling the pinch of that success bias and managing the car. Shematinsky P7 and Castorino. Oh, goodness me, Shematinsky goes very, very deep and into the gravel and takes a spin there. I'm not sure if there was contact between the two of them. We won't be able to quite see exactly what's happened, but Shematinsky going for the spin and using the runoff road immediately, and everybody will gain as a result of that. Meanwhile, a bit further back in P10 at the moment is Luke Whitehead here, who's under pressure for Cherepenin, and behind the pair of them it's Tinko van der Velde. And Van der Velde having had a very, very difficult start. He hasn't really gained any ground. He hasn't lost any, to be fair, either, but he does have the one driver who he'd love to beat, and that's Luke Whitehead ahead of him right now as they make the way out to Tosa and up towards Piratello once again into turn 8 for the second time of asking. And as they come charging through a left-hander at this point, everybody once again falling back into formation. Everybody settling down as they come on through. A bit further down the order, I can see one driver who has gained quite considerably at the start of this race, Kevin Gelling, who's moved up to P18 as the Frenchman makes his way down into towards Aqua Minerale once again. He's just been staying clear, and meanwhile one driver who has lost out massively in everything that's happened, Chris Zoiger, right now all the way down to P20, but he is starting to go on the offensive here versus Martin Ulrich, and Ulrich as well has gained quite considerably since the start of this race. Chris Zoiger looking for the move here versus the Aston Martin driver into Auto, but he can't quite get alongside there. The Aston Martin very strong in terms of acceleration, and in fact excels in changing conditions. It is the race car, the Aston Martin, not quite there in qualifying, it's not quite on the one lap pace, but over the course of the race distance it is one of the most consistent cars in the 2021 BOP from what we're hearing, and well, that is proven true at the moment as we see Bus behind. Joe Coffin having to go defensive here versus Denishenko, who tries to go around the outside, but the Bentley driver is held at bay by the long-lived DFT driver as they make their way through. Bolazzi spot having to wait for another opportunity, and they come to the end of lap number 2 as Chris Zoiger into the pits. He's decided to go early, and a bit behind there Tobias Linden just getting a little bit wide and stepping out, coming out to the final corner as he makes his way across that timeline very shortly, and they come through once again. And we do also have Danila Cherepenin into the pit. We do have two drivers pitting right now, and I do wonder whether they gambled and starting on dries, for example, as meanwhile we look a little bit further up the road to see Marcus Fox here going very deep in towards Tamburello. He gets the car back together here, but David Brigger looking for the move. He's not quite there as they make the way out the left-hander and down towards Villeneuve once again. Just in the front of your picture we can see Denishenko making the move on Joe Coffin, and as they roll their way through Villeneuve, they are now switch places as they come up towards Tosa once again. But we look from the midfield to a bit further up the road, and I can tell you that right now Victor Nicolai has found a way past what is there Oleg Zavolov as they make the way into left-hander at turn number 8, and Harry Phillips still there in the middle of the pack as they all make the way out of Piratella and down towards Aqua Minerale. And you can see it is the case that Castorino here, well, it is one of those situations where I think Castorino feeling some pressure from behind, but also wants to try and gain the driver in front of him. That's Simeon as the Q-Lash Sim Racing driver here from Italy in the number 23 car in this sequence, the second car in the sequence in the battle for P5 right now in a bit of a rock and a hard place scenario as he comes through Auto once again. But as he rolls on through, you can see Harry Phillips there really struggling with the rear end as he came out of the Auto chicane, a bit too much apex curve perhaps, and the car getting very heavily unsettled as he makes his way on down. He has to go defensive here versus one Nicolai as they make the way down into Ravazzo, and he's going to go around the outside as Victor Nicolai. It's a brave move. There's enough space, but Harry Phillips keeps himself in there on the inside. He knows he can't disappear, and so he's going to make it inconvenient as Victor Nicolai once again has to wait for another opportunity to go on the offensive as we ride on board here with the BMW M4 driver as he comes to the end of another lap. And you can see Harry Phillips here goes defensive, but it's a long run, and that Porsche is just languishing in terms of top speed compared to the BMW M4, and I do wonder whether it's the case that perhaps the Romania has gone light on fuel. As you see behind, Tinko van der Velde battling side by side with Luke Whitehead here as they come through the corner, and Van der Velde goes a bit deep, and Whitehead is turned there. Now, was there contact between the two of them? I think that's a question that only the stewards can decide, and indeed the stewards will be very frantically at work right now, but we see the two of them come side by side, and well, it is the case. We'll have to wait and see what the stewards think of that one, but that was very, very close to call as Whitehead has now dropped considerably down the order, it has to be said, and well, he's now bringing himself back up to speed. He's all the way down in P15 as he makes his way into Tosa once again. But as he rolls on through the left-hander, we can see Cody Cosford here under pressure from Kevin Gelling as they make the way up the hill in towards Piratello, but it's a short run. It looks a long run, but because it's uphill, it's actually quite a short run by comparison with what you'd expect. And as they make their way through turn number 8, no opportunity for Gelling. He has to wait, and Martin Ulrich tucking in behind as they roll on through once again down to Aqua Minerale. But right now, as we look from them to a little bit further down the road, I can tell you that Ivan Shematinsky here has found his way past Tobias Linden Linden, as has De Brega there, as they make the way down to Aqua Minerale. And I think it is the case that Shermatinsky just going for the move and get it done, but De Brega spins the car there, and it's the case the rear end comes free, and we see there Martin Van Munster coming on through as well, but Gareth Mills not able to capitalise immediately. It is going to be a drag race as they make the way into the braking zone, but in the end Gareth Mills also gets his way on through, and the Boatley Boys driver, just with a small mistake, losing the rear end of the car into Aqua Minerale, and it has cost him a multitude of positions as they get themselves back up to speed. But as they make the way through, we have had a number of drivers who have peeled into the pits, including Danila Cherepenin, also Timmy Latone. And here, what's happened to Cherepenin? Cherepenin's into the grass there and into the gravel coming out of turn number A. And well, the S&P Racing eSports driver really struggling in these conditions, and it is going from good to bad to worse as we see Marcus Fox just behind, Chris Zoiga just ahead now, Andrea Fraccini and Vittorio Simeone. A number of drivers deciding to pit early. I wonder what their plan is. I think they may have started on the wrong tyre. Alternatively, decided that with the rain increasing, they need another set of tyres, and they want to effectively get that opening stop out of the way. But no such issue right now for our race leader, Sebastian Apostel, who's just breaking away at the head of the field. He's not the fastest man of everybody at the moment. He's being pipped to that accolade by Drago Simeone, who's just set the fastest lap of the race. Our P5 driver here, you can see the West Competition racing machine, the fastest everybody. Last lap of 47.8 versus Apostle on a 47.9, so separated by a tenth of a second. But right now, it does look as though Apostle has got this race in control, and Simeone is now trying to gain where he lost out a little bit at the start of this race in terms of overall pace. But as he rolls on down now in towards Aqua Minerale, we'll have to wait and see as things are starting to space out a little bit. Meanwhile, a little bit further down the order, but not to be forgotten about here, we do have one, unfortunately, I think we can't quite find Harry Phillips at the moment, and there he is, and where is the case, losing out versus what is Victor Nikolai right now as they make the way on down. And you can see in P10 we have Giovanni Izzo here, who does have a whole train of cars, and breathing down his neck right now is another Mercedes AMG Evo machine, and that is Tinko van der Velde as they make the way out of Alta and down towards Ravazza. But as they are rolling down the hill right now, it is the case as the drivers make the way on down. And we are hearing that the stewards are very furiously at work at the moment with regards to incidents. As soon as we hear about any potential decisions, we will let you know. But it is the case right now, everybody's starting to settle into room. But you see Giovanni Izzo, they're pulling over a little bit, just doing a little bit of a weave on the exit of Ravazza 2. He's worried about Van der Velde gaining on the straight, and you can see, look at that dry line that has formed here. And I think a number of drivers will be trying to slave their tyres to the standing water where the dry line is not, to try and get those tyre temperatures down. But it does look as though Tinko van der Velde looking for the move. He can't quite find it this time as they're rolling through the corner. But meanwhile, we look a little bit further down, we can see Ivan Shematinsky here making his way past Tobias Linden. On to another lap they go, and Shematinsky up to P20. Tobias Linden just tucks on in there. I think it's the case that Linden focusing more about the longer race and knowing that at the end of the day he may not be battling with Shematinsky on outright pace. And so why hold himself up and tie himself to the driver who's clearly going to be faster as they make their way through Tamburello and up towards Villeneuve. Now as they roll them through in the meantime, of course, this race only 10 minutes in, and we have already seen plenty of racing action so far. Plenty more on its way, there's no doubt about that. We do have to wonder where the strategy is going to play out. We've already had the bottom 6 drivers have all made one pit stop already, and of course the question is, did they start on slicks, for example, in the hope the conditions would be manageable? Well, I doubt that, given the fact they would have seen on their radars that there's a lot of rain, it's increasing rain in the forecast. Perhaps they decided just to get that pit stop out of the way early and give themselves some track space. We will wait and see. We'll have to find out. As meanwhile, we do look up to P9 man, and that is Oleg Zabolov here as he makes his way down and around through Alta and looking very comfortable right now in P9. And well, I think he'll be a lot happier than what is there ahead, and that is Giovanni Izzo in P10. But we're looking at Tinko van der Velde here as we ride on board with the Dutchman as he chases after P10 and goes through the left hand here of Ravazza 1. Now, Tinko van der Velde, of course, the Williams Esports driver, didn't have the best of qualifying sessions, and a bit of a surprise to the system as he really has to fight the car there into the apex of Ravazza 2. And I do wonder where Tinko van der Velde is trying to run on a setup which is more catered for dry conditions, or drying conditions it should be said, because to see that amount of snap oversteer on turn into the second apex of Ravazza 2, to be fair, it's a tricky left-hander in the dry, but it is the case that the Dutchman, they're really having to fight with the car, and that's giving Izzo the opportunity as Izzo goes very deep on the braking. He takes to the runoff there and returns to the circuit, and that will give Tinko van der Velde the opportunity to close up considerably here as they make the way out of turn number 4 and down towards Villeneuve. You see Izzo defending, and as they make their way into the braking zone, van der Velde not able to find a way through. Izzo putting the the car right in the middle of the road and essentially just stopping the whole momentum of the pair of them as they make the way towards toe. So now Iso will go defensive, and Tinko van der Velde's going to try and go around the outside. It's going to be very brave here, and as they make the way through, of course, a lot of standing water on the outside, but it's Van der Velde who wasn't able to close up this time as they roll them through and go up towards Piratella once again, and this is enabling Mattia Vacca to close up behind. As you can see, the Italian here following through as well. And it's getting very close between these three, and right now Giovanni Iso really battling against the current in terms of trying to hold on to that P10 and just hold track position here. And of course, it is quite a good track to defend in terms of Imola. There's not too many major overtaking places where defending is difficult, apart from the start-finish straight, it could be argued, and also the run from Tamburello to Villeneuve. But beyond that, you can make a car very wide around here, and it is being demonstrated right now by Giovanni Iso, who is running significantly off the pace of the leaders on this lap alone. We are hearing, looking a bit further down the order, that Joe Coffin's just had a bit of an off, and we are trying to find where Joe Coffin is, and he's down in P23, and we have lost him. He's had a spin there coming out of Aqua Minerale, and he's dropped all the way down to P25, so it's not a good day for Joe Coffin. As meanwhile Gareth Mills, well, he's just bringing himself back up to speed right now. I think he had to take evasive action, a bit of drama further down the road, but we look from them to a bit further up the road once again, and we can see that Giovanni Iso once more in that P10 position, just trying to hold on here. But where is Mattia Vacca? Well, Vacca is into the pit, so he's decided to call it early here, and with the rain intensifying in the next 10 minutes, and it'll calm a little down a little bit later on, it will be the case. So with these variable conditions, he's decided he's had enough, and it's his first pit stop. But meanwhile, we look from the midfield to the front of the field, and I can tell you that Sebastian Apostel right now, the wall just absolutely hammering it away and trying to break away from Luca Dogano. But the problem, of course, for Sebastian Apostel is Luca Dogano is trying to match him, and well, the two of them right now not quite matching. The fact Luca Dogano that last lap 6 tenths slower, and I think Apostel really eking out that advantage as time goes on here. But at any moment, if one driver makes a mistake, it all turns upside down. And one driver who'll know about that is Drago Simeone, who's trying to chase down Donardo here as they make their way down into Aqua Minerale, and right on the back of the Cortec Racing one driver as they come through the right-hander and head up towards Alta once again. As we check into the chat there, and we do say hello to Michele Cesini, who's cheering on Cortec Racing as well. Cortec Racing 1, that is. And also we say hello in the YouTube chat there to Stefan Vessels, tuning in. Good evening to you, Stefan, and also to Zariah Grunion, who will be cheering on Bolas Esports, of course, as he makes that very clear in the YouTube chat. And it's good to see you all tuning in. And my goodness, we're not even 15 minutes into the hour and a half right now, but this race has definitely proven a very tricky one for all of our drivers. But we do seem to have our top 5 who are breaking away, as we continue to watch Drago Simeone here chasing after what is Donardo, and just behind, to be fair, Amadeo Castorino, who really is a bit of an unsung hero in qualifying in terms of his performance after it went a bit wrong at Zandvoort last time for Castorino, but this time it is all coming together. And well, as he makes his way on through and goes charging across that timeline to go for what for him is now lap number 9, you can imagine Castorino wants to keep the top 5 just within arm's reach to try and go after him a little bit later on in the race. Now, just checking in with the stewards as well whilst this all happening, I can tell you they're still furiously dissecting everything that's happened on the opening couple of laps, and there's nothing in terms of incidents or, well, punishable incidents at this point in time. No further action on everything that has been reported so far. A number of door bangs and wheel bangs, but nothing too dark so far, as we do see Drago Simeone there just going a little bit wide on the exit of Villeneuve that time around, pushing it to the limit and seemingly not able to find a way to break down the defence of Donardo for the time being. But as we look a bit further down the order, down to what is P14, Joshua Allen here, holding off Kevin Gelling right now as he makes his way out of Villeneuve here. And the McLaren driver, I think at this point, the Briton, I think feeling a bit comfortable now. Now he's getting used to these wet conditions as he rolls on through, and as he continues to make his way up and around in towards what is Piratella here. I think Joshua Allen just thinking about the long game here and thinking about how he can continue to extract that pace out of the car as time rolls on. As he comes on through, another driver who will be thinking about that as we look much further up the order once again to P3, and that is Ivan Fornes here, who is right now making his way past a little bit of traffic there. You can see he has made his way past Joe Coffin, who is at this point in the race a lap down, but he has cleared a pit stop already, so that will be to his advantage. But Ivan Thorne is not quite on the pace of the top 2 right now, it should be said. He is the best part of approximately 2 seconds down on Dogano in P2, but he has got a 1.7 second advantage to Donardo behind. And the Joker's E-Team BMW driver, they're being cheered on by a number of you in the Twitch chat in particular, and we can see Lizino wow there, cheering on. And we can also see Laggerty, who very happy to see Ivan Fornes on the screen right now. It is the case that he is putting in laps. That last lap for him at 49.4 versus the top two on 48.6 and 48.8. So he is losing out by approximately half a second on occasion versus the top two. But to be fair, in these conditions, I think keeping your lap times within half a second of one another over the or within a half a second range is an achievement in terms of consistency as they make their way on around and down. But meanwhile, we look from our P3 man to our P5 man, Drago Simeon, who still cannot find a way past Donato here. And with that in mind, you can see Castorino is closing up. But a driver who also wants to get into this mix, and he is our P7 man. He's at the rear of your picture there, and we now focus on him. That is Victor Nikolai, who right now, once he passes Jokoff, and he'll have the blue flags waving very shortly. I think for Nikolai, he will be thinking about trying to get himself into that top 5 as he rolls on through and goes charging on up towards what is turn number 8. But looking from one of the drivers in the top 10 to a driver outside of the top 10, and that is Luke Whitehead here, who has found his way past Christian Nembrini and got himself up a position. And how did that happen? Let's take a look. Well, this was only moments ago, and as we wind back here, as they made their way out of what was the Tamburello chicane, you'll see that Whitehead is going to be increasingly close to the back of the driver in front of him. And as he made his way through the right-hander here of Villeneuve, the second part, well, Nembrini in the end just not going defensive, and Whitehead sending up the inside. Nembrini deciding to go for a wide line there, and I think trying to cool the tyres down, and both drivers giving one another the racing room and respect. And as a result, Whitehead gaining the position there and using the space that's on the inside. I think Nembrini struggling with tyre temperatures a little bit and deciding to go wider to get the temps down, and as a result give Whitehead the place. As they make the way on through. To be fair, Whitehead trying to crusade his way back up the field. Tinko van der Velde, of course, the next man up the road from him. The two of them did have a little bit of a coming together at what was the Tamburello chicane. Whether there was actual contact between the two of them, which saw Whitehead go off, it was very hard to decrypt, to be fair. So as a result, we're not going to point fingers or anything on those lines. That's what our stewards have to do. They're the ones who have to solve the finger pointing and decide who is the person in the wrong. But meanwhile, as they make the way on through, we see Drago Simone here, who is falling back a little bit, but he's looking for the move here versus Donato, and he's going to go round the outside to inside. My goodness, I think Donato's got it a bit wrong. As we can see, there's also Victor Nikolai coming up in the order as they make the way on through, and my goodness, what an absolutely nail of seat pass. And we take a look back at that. So we can see here, looking back, it was the case. Well, as they made their way charging up towards turn number 2, it was one of the situations whereby all the drivers coming together, and that was Castorino. Now, Castorino's gained multiple places. I'm wondering whether there's been an incident, alternative off from both what is Simeone and also Donato, because it is the case that Castorino's got ahead of the pair of them, and he was behind them before they got to this sequence. But right now, very, very brave move from Drago Simeone, and as a result, gaining a place back. But Amadeo Castorino right now has gained a number of places and is continuing to make his way out the order right now. And Castorino in P4, Ivan Fornes the best part of what is 4 seconds up the road, and Amadeo Castorino continuing to push his way onwards as he makes his way through the order to chicane here. And we're looking at the lap times. I think it is the case that both Donato and Simone had offs right at the end of the lap, most likely at Ravazza 2, because Simeone's lap last time around was a 51.0, Donato a 51.0. Meanwhile, Castorino and Nikolai both 49, so I think that explains the story that we're missing. But right now we can see as they make their way through Ravazza 2 here, the 3 BMWs in sequence as they all come to the end of lap number 11 and make their way onto lap number 12 for themselves. Now, as they come on through this time, we do check in once again with regards to the stewards, and well, we are not seeing anything with regards to any penalties. A warning has been given to a car, and that has been given to what is car number 777, and I believe that warning is for an unsafe rejoin. Car 777 is, unless I'm very much mistaken, we are just trying to find car 777. In fact, I think we might have a typo there with regards to our stewards briefings. We haven't got a 777 car out on circuit right now, but we'll get that clarified as soon as possible for you, ladies and gentlemen. But as the drivers continue to make their way around right now, we do look from the battle for the top 5 here to a bit further down the road, and we look down to what is David Breger here, who in P17 right now is trying to find his way back up the field after getting it wrong at Aqua Minerale and cost himself a sizable amount of time. He's yet to pit, of course, and now he is chasing after Gareth Mills there, who's just ahead of him, and then he'll be going after Martin Ulrich. But Gareth Mills a lap down, and respecting the blue flags immediately. And right now the Boatley Boys driver here, I think, just trying to put in some consistent laps and not do anything too wrong as he makes his way on around and through. But a lot further down the order, I can tell you, but of course he's further down because he has made a pit stop, and that is Andrea Francini, who, as he makes his way across that timeline, chasing after Chris Zoiga as they come across here to complete their respective, what is their 11th lap and go on to a 12th lap here, and both drivers having cleared the first pit stop. Plenty more pit stops to go as they come on through. Now, I can tell you with regards to their pit time, it is the case that their pit stops respectively quite fast stops, so I do wonder exactly what strategy they're trying to play at the moment, but we will have to wait and see what the story will be for them as we do look a lot further up the road. And we look up to what is Joshua Allen here, with Kevin Gelling going wide there, coming out of, well, no, it's not Piratella, that's the auto chicane, and Kevin Gelling getting it wrong on exit there, and as he makes his way on down towards turn number 15 right now, down towards Ravazza. First he's got to go through turn number 14, the first left-hander. It is the case, the Frenchman here, I think he's had a little bit of graze on the front of the car and now lost the place. He's down to P15, and behind him he does have Martin Ulrich, who goes a little bit sideways there on exit. Ulrich just pushing the boundaries, does the Dane, as he makes his way across the line and on to another lap here. And the McLeod Racing Team driver just continues to soldier on here. Indeed, now we are at that point whereby our drivers all just wanting to keep it together and push on as much as humanly possible. And as they come on through, we do continue to look around. We just had confirmation that with regards to car 777, that is a reference to Danila Cherepenin, who has picked up what is the warning. Well, thank you for clarifying there, Next Gen, in the YouTube chat. And well, we are just trying to find Cherepenin out on circuit right now, but we can't seem to find him. He does seem a little bit elusive to our cameras. So as on the racing carries on, I think we might have actually lost Cherepenin. I think there may have been a retirement for the driver because I can't see him on the timing screens anymore, or if he is still in this race, he's definitely disappeared off my screens, and we all have to wait and see as our drivers press on. But as the time continues to come down in the first third of this race, it is the case that we do look on board here with Kevin Gelling as he does continue that pursuit of what is Joshua Allen, and as they roll on down right now in towards Acqua Minerale, we listen to the sounds of that Ferrari 488. Goes charging out of Acqua Minerale and down towards where's the auto chicane here. It does look as though the two mid-engine rear-wheel drive machines, the McLaren up in front and the Ferrari we're riding on board with, quite equal around here, although you can see the nervousness there of Joshua Allen as he approaches the apex curves of the auto chicane. The McLaren's so nervous over raised curves by comparison with the Ferrari, and that's something that Joshua Allen's having to deal with, but it is in these sweeps where Allen's able to open that gap in left-handers such as this, but you can see Kevin Gelling really closing up under braking here and looking for that opportunity. Will he be able to go for it in the run down towards what is Zambrello? As we see Joshua Allen losing the car there, just losing the rear end a bit too soon on the power. He just taps the wall, but he keeps most of it out of the wall, and I think as a result he will be kicking himself for that one. As meanwhile we do look a little bit further up the order, and we do see right now in P6 Victor Nicolai here, the West Competition racing driver, chasing after his teammate, and that is Drago Simeon ahead, and ahead of the pair of them is Castorino still. But one thing I can tell that is starting to happen right now, ladies and gentlemen, perhaps it's a bit of a shock to the system for some, but it is the case that our race leader of Sebastian Apostle is being reeled in. You can see he's being reeled in by the driver behind him, and that is Luca Dogano right now. And our top two are 6 seconds clear of P3 man Ivan Fornes, so they're both running a little bit of a world of their own at the moment in terms of lap time. They are on average about a second a lap faster than the pursuing Ivan Fornes, who we now look at here in P3. As he comes on through, it is the case as the drivers make their way in and around. Well, Ivan Fornes continues to press on, but it is the case he is being reeled on in by the drivers behind him. Amadeo Castorino being at the head of that pack, as we do see between Fornes and Castorino, we do have Ivan Shermatinsky there in the Bentley, which is a lap down and down in P27 at this time. As our drivers continue to make their way on and through, we do look a little bit further down the order once again, and we do look to Tinko van der Velde in P12, as we can see here closing up to the back of Luke Whitehead here, and these two have changed places, it should be said, albeit we haven't quite seen it on pictures. And as a result, as Tinko van der Velde continues his pursuit of Luke Whitehead right now, these two, of course, with Whitehead with that 20 kilograms of success ballast, will be feeling it massively on the straights and also into a downhill braking zone such as this, more weight coming forward in the car under braking, and will Tinko van der Velde not enjoy enjoying the Mercedes at the moment. He's pressing on all the same. To be fair, he wouldn't have picked the car if he wasn't expecting to enjoy it at Imola, but it is the case. I think in these conditions, the weather just not what he wants, and I can see on the radar right now, with almost half an hour of this race complete, it is the case that in the next 10 minutes, the rain is going to start to fall away to a degree. We will still have rain, but it will be much lighter within the next 30 minutes compared to how it is now, and that may see some of the drivers who are running dry-orientated setups on the car, perhaps they'll start to enjoy a little bit more success, as right now drivers such as Tinko and Velde are definitely not enjoying these conditions, as we see in there slide the car on the exit at Tamburello and really having to fight with the steering wheel every time he comes through these corners. As behind, we do see a little bit further down the road with Kevin getting under pressure here from Martin Ulrich in the battle for P14. No change between these two at this point in time as they come through the right-hander, and as they roll on through, well, Kevin Gelling having to hold on for the time as we do look a little bit further up the road to what is P8 here. And we can see Harry Phillips chasing down Donato, who after an incident which we didn't see at Ravazza 2, Donato really struggling for pace at this point in time. And I do wonder here whether Harry Phillips will try and bring it on in. As you can see, that Shermatinsky literally having to respect the blue flag. So a whole plethora of cars, 5 cars all coming through in quick succession. And well, Shermatinsky at this point I think will be a bit frustrated with how this race has gone as they make the way on around. Now, as we can see here, Harry Phillips in that hot pursuit of Donato as they make the way down in towards Ravazza once again. They come underneath the billboard. And well, I think Harry Phillips at this point tying himself to the back of that Mercedes in terms of pace, and he will only go for the move if he absolutely thinks he can get past, because Harry Phillips, a very pace-orientated driver, as we said earlier. If you're looking for the man who can make the car last, it's the Wild Things Racing driver, as the number 26 car comes roaring on by and to the end of its 15th tour of the circuit under race conditions, and now he makes his way onto lap number 16. Now, I am just checking in, and I do believe we do have one retirement. It's been confirmed a technical issue for the car of Danila Cherepenin, the Mercedes having issues, but meanwhile we can see it is the case of Victor Nicolai looking for what is the move on Castorino, as Drago Simone has found his way past just off camera there versus Castorino, and as they make the way down towards what is the Villeneuve chicane here, I think Castorino now starting to feel the pinch of pace as they roll on through. Goes a little bit deep there and the car becomes unsettled, but to be fair, Nicolai as well having some difficulty, and as they make the way on around right now, it is a situation where I think both drivers just trying to push on in, as we are hearing that Joshua Allen is into the pits from P17, and I think to get rid of his first mandatory pit stop, and also Denishenko doing the same, clearing his first stop as they make the way into the pits. But right now, Nicolai not able to find a way past Castorino, and they stay as they were as they make the way down in towards Acqua Minerale once again. But now that we are coming towards the end of the first third of this race, the question is with regards to pit stop and also these changing conditions, will we see drivers gamble on a pit stop now, or will they wait until later? I think some drivers will be looking at that weather radar, as we see Nicolai looking for the move in versus Castorino. He's not close enough for it, and Harry Phillips trying to do the same versus Donato in the rear of the camera shot. And as we ride on board here at Castorino, looking back, will we right on board here with the Q-Lash Sim Racing driver, the Italian, in the number 23 car. And well, just to give you a perspective of how much spray is coming off the back of the M4 versus the M4 opponent as they make the way down into Ravazza, and you could see that Nicolai is looking for that potential move, but he just can't get the overspeed or the wheel on the brakes to be able to go for the full lunge. And as well, he loses out there on the exit Ravazza to a very slow exit there by comparison with Amadeo Castorino. And Castorino really strong in these exits. He hasn't quite got the pace over the whole lap, but it does seem as though he knows where to nail it in terms of being able to break away and keep himself safe before the next opportunity for Nicolai to catch up as they make the way into Tamburello once again. Now, as they roll on through, it's under braking. You can see the difference, whereby Nicolai just able to close up immensely under trail braking into the opening chicane, but he goes a little bit wide there and slightly onto the grass, and that will cost him a bit of pace as they make the way down and into Villeneuve. And as they roll on through, no change between these two for the time being, but definitely back and forth time and time again as they make the way into left-hander here of Tosa. And we can see there in the YouTube chat, Adrian Erasmus saying, wow, what game is this? The graphics are amazing. This is the sim racing game known as Assetto Corsa Competizione, as brought to you on the PC platform, my friend. And we're glad to hear you are enjoying the spectacle of the racing here around a rather wet and also a little bit windy 1 km/h wind of the Imola circuit in Italy, as our drivers continue to make the way on around and down and in towards Acqua Minerale. But in the meantime, it is the case that with half an hour complete. We've still got an hour of racing to go. Well, what has been the story so far? I think it's been a story of the majority of our drivers opting to stay out and just simply try to deliver lap after lap until the rain either subsides or it reaches a stable point in terms of a level of consistency. And then there are those that have already made one pit stop, and we wonder whether it was because a gamble in terms of their strategy did not work out, i.e. perhaps they tried to start on the dries, or whether they decided to get rid of a pit stop early and give themselves some clear space out on track. Well, we'll only find out later on as things continue to progress, but right now as we look from up the front towards a lot further down the order and all the way down to Cody Cosford here in P28, one of those said drivers who was made one of those early pit stops and had a difficult start to the race, the Team Bullers Esport driver from the United Kingdom in the 54 McLaren 720S, not having the race he would have wanted right now and is effectively a lap down on leaders. In fact, Cody Cosford, to be fair, as he rolls him through the left-hander, I think well, I've got it on my time screen, he's actually visited the pitch twice, but I think that may be a glitch, and he's just rolling on through right now to complete another lap as he comes across the timeline. And we can also see there Arca 333 in the Twitch chat there cheering on Ivan Fornes, who's all the way up in P3, and to give you a reference here, the Joker's Esport driver as he makes his way on through, charge on through, but again he is being reeled in, it should be said, by Drago Simeon, who are behind him right now. Where you are looking on camera, Drago Simeon here, the fastest man on circuit. He's just set the fastest lap of the race at 48.907 and is continuing to push on as he makes his way down the round. But actually I do think, and my apologies ladies and gentlemen, that is not, well, that is the fastest lap of the race as he makes his way on through, and our time screen is just a little bit glitched there as we do have the purple indicator next to him. I think some of our time screens are glitched from the qualifying session earlier on, and as a result we do have a little bit of confusion there, but we can see it Simeon right now continuing to push on as he makes his way around and up towards what is the Alta chicane, and will delivering lap after lap, and he is the fastest by a considerable margin as he comes on through the Alta here and makes his way now down towards Ravazza, but behind Castorino, falling away from Simeon as they come in towards the braking zone for Ravazza 1, and as they make the way down in towards that braking zone, I wonder how long it'll be before Nikolai either considers a move, because they've been like this for at least 3 laps now, or whether he decides to peel into the pits and try to go for an undercut. Of course, all of our drivers will be working with their engineers, their race engineers and their strategy teams to try and identify when's the optimum point to go for a pit stop here. They will have all the live timing data available to them as provided by Pitbull Live, and it is the case that our drivers right now will be looking at when is the optimum time to pit if they choose to do so in the near future. But as they come across the timeline once again, Castorino here going defensive partially versus Nikolai. And as they make the way through Tamburello, it is the case, well, the P6 driver here really closing up on the braking as we ride on board with the BMW M4 in the pursuit position as they make the way up towards what is Villeneuve chicane. But you can see every time he emerges from these chicanes, just losing out a little bit. Castorino having the greater confidence to get on the power and fighting with the steering wheel there, Victor Nikolai, as he makes his way up into the braking zone for turn number 7 into Tulsa here. And as they come through the hairpin, it is the case that I think what Nikolai's got the car set up for is carrying speed through corners, but he hasn't got it set up for stability on corner exit, where it's the reverse for Castorino, who's got the car set up for stability in these wet conditions but not for carrying speed. And it's that contrast which is leading to this back and forth dynamic between the two of them in terms of neither one can gain the upper hand, but Nikolai pushing to the absolute limit to close up into Aqua Minerale. And my goodness, I don't know if that made anybody else flinch in their chairs there, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I'm a sim racer myself, but that makes me flinch that close up to breaking into Aqua Minerale. And well, Victor Nikolai right now just absolute steeled in his heart with regards to close up. He takes a bit too much apex there at Alta and lose out once again, but you can see what he's trying to do. He's trying to close up so much under braking to give himself that right to either disturb Castorino, get in the mind of Castorino, or be able to have the run into the next corner, but it's not working out for the time being as he rolls his way on down through Ravazza once again here. But as they make the way on through, I can tell that Drago Simone here has found a way past Ivan Fornes, and Fornes has lost out. Now, how did this happen? Let's take a look. Ivan Fornes there having a very, very poor run through the Alta chicane. I think just clambering over the apex gun. Fornes going defensive here, making Simone have to go all the way around the outside in the run down towards Ravazza. But then, as they made the way down, I think Fornes pulled back onto the race 9 and Simone decided he's going to go for it. And to be fair, Fornes gave him the space, but there was a little bit of contact there as they came in. It's very tight through Ravazza 1 and a bit of door-to-door contact. And as they made the way out, that is how Drago Simone has now moved up to P3, and Ivan Fornes has lost a position and is down to P4 as we we return to the live pictures, and you can see now Ivan Fornes continues to drop down the order after great pace in the early stage of this race. He is starting to feel his lap times fall off right now. That last lap at 50.5, but to be fair, you can understand there was a bit of contact in the battle there, so that lap doesn't necessarily convey the whole picture, but his previous laps have been in the high 49s compared to his peers who are in the low 49s or the 48s, and I think Fornes is starting to just fall away a little bit here as we are making our way around and down on the 20th lap of racing here at Imola as they make their way down in towards Acqua Minerale. And now Fornes has got a whole army of BMW M4s behind him in the form of Castorina and also Nicolai, and then he has got the Mercedes AMG Evo a bit further back of Rafael Donato, who is also trying to close up as they make their way into the braking zone here. And you can see Castorino looks for the move. He doesn't dare completely commit. Sending like that into Alta is going to be very hard to keep the car straight and narrow, but he decides in the end to play it safe. But Castorino definitely hungry for that P4 position and looking for that opportunity in the very near future. Now, will he try and do what Simone did only moments ago, which is force the issue into Ratsawan? No, he's a bit more patient as the Q-Lab sim racing driver. He decides it's not the time, and instead he waits for another opportunity as they make their way on through. Now, as they make their way around through the left hand here and to come on to another lap, here's Case Castorino all over the back of Fornes here. And Fornes, what will he do? Will he go defensive? Well, Castorino looks the inside, but Fornes covers it off in the end. And as they make their way in the long run down towards Tamburello here, it's going to be the case that Castorino is going to be made to go around the outside. He's given just enough room. Fornes holds the inside line here, but goes very deep and runs over the apex at turn number 3. And there's a bit of contact between the two of them there, but they both keep it together. And Fornes is really struggling now to hold on to the position as they make their way down towards Villeneuve. No change this time, but you can see how the rest of the pursuing pack have caught right up to the back of this, with Ivan Fornes really having a difficulty as they make their way on through. And right now, for the Joker's E-Team BMW driver, you can just see, look at the pack of cars close out. Even Harry Phillips, who was in P8, closing up as well as they make their way up towards Piratella. And I think at any moment now we might see Victor Nicolai try and come back at Castorino. Alternatively, can Rafael Donato also get into that mix as they make their way through Piratella once again here. And in these conditions where the circuit is drying up a little bit more, but we've still got rain, albeit it's lessening rain, the track evolves, and with it the difficulty increases because some drivers will be hoping to keep the tyres cool, whereas others will be grateful for the fact that the water is starting to go. Now, as they make their way in the long run down towards the braking zone here for Alta, you can see things have settled down a little bit for the time being. I think Fornes just having a bit of a difficult lap, in fact, and able to open up that gap as we look to the TV cameras once again, the external cameras rather than the onboard cameras. And it is the case that Ivan Fornes right now just continuing to press on down as he rolls in to Rabatsawan and getting himself back into a little bit of a rhythm here. I do wonder with Castorino whether he's got it all to play for once again as they make their way out the corner, and we'll see it very shortly because in the slipstream here, and Castorino I think does have a little bit of a straight line speed advantage. They're both in the same car, but of course it's down to the drivers how the cars are set up, and as they make their way across the timeline, where you can see Castorino all over the back of Ivan Fornes as Castorino looks to the outside here, but he's not close enough to be able to go side by side, but he's going to look for it. It's Castorino, he goes all the way in under braking. Fornes turns in, squeezes him to the apex, they're side by side through, and as they make the way through, it's going to be 3 wide as they make the way through the left hand and they're at turn 4. But it is the case that in the end Victor Nicolai backs out and Ivan Fornes loses the position. He tries to come back here to Villeneuve, he can't find a way on in. Castorino does gain the position, but to be fair, as they've made the way on through, they've cost themselves a huge amount of time, and Victor Nicolai closing immensely as they come through Tosa here as they make the way through the left hand hairpin. And right now Castorino in a huge amount of pressure as they come up towards Piratella. He needs to break away and let Ivan Fornes go defensive, otherwise it's going to be the case. It's a 5-way battle for P4 I should say, and it's giving the top 3 the right to just break away off up the road as they all come down right now with 51 minutes of this race to go. And indeed the intensity is only ever increasing as all 5 drivers come charging through Acqua Minerale once again. But my goodness, the closeness of this racing right now, you wouldn't believe it, and it's absolutely fantastic to see as all of our drivers come up through Alta once again here in the long sequence. And well, with all that, it is getting closer and closer with each and every lap as they make the way on through. But as they now make the way down towards Ravatsa 1 once again, we do look a little bit further down the road. I can tell you that what is Luke Whitehead here has found his way past Giovanni Izzo, who's got it very wrong from what I'm hearing from other trackside marshals in my ear. getting it very wrong at what was Aqua Minerale, and Luke Whitehead now up to P10 is the GTWR R8G Academy driver as he makes his way on down and in to Ravazza. But he's gained and hold up a second. I think we have seen a slight change of position, and it's Victor Nicolai into the pits. He's decided he's had enough of being tucked in behind Castorino and Fornes for so long, and the West Competition Racing drivers into the pits. We see Joshua Allen as well in the pits, and well, as they make their way on through right now, we do have a couple other drivers who have retired from this race. We've only got 28 drivers registered now as on circuit, but Victor Nicolai losing out, and meanwhile that will release, of course, Ivan Fornes and give him a bit of a breather after what was relentless pressure as he makes his way through Villeneuve. But as he comes on through, it's now Rafael Donato who will be looking for that opportunity. You can see Fornes really strong. I think those wet tyres on Ivan Fornes' car are overheating because he just does not look comfortable. He's looking for standing water. He's trying to find little patches of water, but he hasn't got the time to cool the tyres down because he's got the pressure of the drivers behind him. You can see there Donato almost doing a little bit of rallycross coming up into Piratella, trying to find a way through, and well, it is the case that right now Fornes really in a lot of pain with regards to those tyre pressures as they make the way on down. And we have had confirmation that car number 33 and car number 67 have both retired from this race, which is very unfortunate. So we have lost two more of our drivers, and as the racing continues here, it is the situation of Ivan Fornes just trying to hold on. And how long can he hold on for here, because it is not going his way whatsoever. Meanwhile, further down the road, and not to be forgotten about, we do have one where it's Victor Nicolai who has come out of the pits in P17 and has got himself some clear space on track right now, and he could be able to use this for a huge undercut as he makes one through. And I'm hearing that Joshua Allen is stuck in the pits right now, and I think it may be the case that Joshua Allen, with an absolute gargantuan pit time at the moment in excess of almost 3 minutes, I think we might be seeing Joshua Allen's McLaren not coming back out onto the circuit. I think they're having some issues with the car. We will have to wait and see for the number 22 driver as they make the way on through, but it's a very long pit stop for Joshua Allen, and I think they're doing a lot of work to try and get the car fixed as there is something that's gone very wrong. But meanwhile, as we look from Victor Nicolai here, who is in hot pursuit of the potential battle for P4, and Ivan Fornes continues to feel that pressure from Donato and Phillips behind. It is the case that the rest of the field has spaced out a little bit now, given the overall strategies, but we do see Harry Phillips here closing up immensely to the back of Donato as they come on through. But remember, all of our drivers from P1 down to P14 have yet to make their first mandatory pit stop, and then it is the case that the majority of our drivers below P14, starting off with Timmy Latona in P15, have already made one mandatory stop. The only exceptions that being Martin van Munster at this point in time, as we understand it, and I believe it is a situation as a result whereby that we're going to be seeing this chop up in the field, whereby the drivers who've yet to take their first pit stop are going to be coming out in amongst the drivers who've already made that opening stop. We will wait to see how the complexion changes here as we ride on board with Harry Phillips in P7, giving pursuit of Rafael Donato through Aqua Minerale. As he gives the hot pursuit here of what is Rafael Donato, it is the case he can't quite find a way on through for the time being, but we do in fact have to look away very briefly, ladies and gentlemen, because there has been some sort of exchange between Kevin Gelling and also what is there. Well, I believe that is Martin Ulrich, and I believe the two have traded places. Let's take a look back at what exactly has happened. Well, Kevin Gelling, in fact, here having a very, very slow run down and around through the corners, and I do wonder whether something has potentially gone wrong. And I think, in fact, with Kevin Gelling here, the car not looking too happy, going very slowly through the chicane there of what was... going very slowly through the chicane of what was Tamburello, and you can see Martin Ulrich just closing up like an absolute storm. And as they made the way through, I think Kevin Gelling's got damage which is preventing that car from being raced well, and that is how Martin Ulrich came on through. There was a tiny bit of contact, and that Ferrari has been in the wars, it would seem, as he makes his way on through and around. But as we do look from them back to our live pictures, we can see there is the case Tinko van der Velde up to P10 now. He has been released with Christian Embrini P11 as Giovanni Izzo has come into the pits from P10. He's now dropping down the order, of course, with that pit stop being underway. And, well, it is the case whilst he's taking the stop and drivers are continuing to make their way on around, we do look back up to Harry Phillips here, who is all over the back of another Cortec racing machine, and that is Donato here, as we see the Briton giving that hot pursuit. And, well, can he find a way on through? That is the big question as they make the way on around once again. as they roll through the left-hand corners here. It is one of those situations whereby as they come down into Acque Minerale, I think Harry Phillips here will be thinking about a pit stop in the near future. As we are getting to the halfway point of the race, we're only 10 seconds away from reaching half-time distance, and as they make the way on through, we can see a little bit further up the road there, Castorino with David Brega, who is between them, and of course blue flags for David Brega down in P22. He will be expected to move aside for the field that are charged on through in the short order, but right now it is the case I think he'll be more focused on just what can he do to bring his race back together. And well, as we see Harry Phillips here continue to give that pursuit. Will he look for the move down to Ravazza? I think he'll probably leave going for the move and instead save a little bit of fuel. But meanwhile into the pits, it is, well, it's not Luca Dogano who takes the lead. It is Sebastian Apostle who comes on in for his first pit stop. Now he has been our outright leader of this race for some time, and that does promote Luca Dogano and also Drago Simeone up into the leading positions. We have also got Donato into the pits. He's coming from P6, so we are starting to see some opening pit stops from our race leaders, or at least our top 10 we should really say, as right now the complexion of this race will change considerably, and that will release Harry Phillips and let him go racing, which I think he'll be very pleased about as he makes his way around and through West Tamburello, and now he goes pursuing after Ivan Fornes here. But I wonder whether Harry Phillips will decide very shortly to simply go through as they make their way through the right-hander, and as they come through what is their coming through the Villeneuve chicane. I think for Harry Phillips it's going to be one of those situations where I think if Fornes doesn't come in, he will be looking out for that situation whereby he will need to undercut Fornes, because Fornes right now just not there in terms of the pace by comparison to the drivers behind him. But to be fair, Ivan Fornes puts in a very solid drive all the same as they make their way through Piratella. Now we are looking to the stewards once again here, and it is the case, no major time penalties for any of our drivers, just a couple of little notes about contact between drivers, but nothing to shout home about, as Harry Phillips definitely feeling that pressure now, being stuck behind Ivan Fornes and trying to find his way on through here as they make the way down towards the auto chicane. As they come into that braking zone this time, as we are hearing that our first driver to clear both of his Manda pit stops is Vittorio Simeone down in P21. We'll have to keep our eyes on him and how much he comes up through the field now that he has cleared those two pit stops. It is the case, well, will Fornes be coming in at the end of this lap? Will he feel as though he's got the job done and now he needs to react to the fact the drivers behind him have decided to pit, or will he stay out even more the jokers, a team BMW driver, as he makes his way through the left-hander here of what is Ravazza to through turn number 15. Drago Simeone into the pits, and we see Ivan Fornes peels on in. Harry Phillips stays on out as they make the way on through. So it is the case, as we also see that Castorino into the pits. So a number of pit stops line up in quick succession. And well, with that in mind, what about Oleg Solobov? Does he decide to come in? No, the Russian, the S&P Racing Esports driver, stays on out as he makes his way onto lap number 27, and the Ferrari driver here deciding to go long. And I think the idea behind this, of course, is to give himself every prospect of time to be able to just simply getting good lap time out on circuit. But the driver right now who all eyes will be on is Sebastian Apostle with regards to can he get himself back out ahead of the drivers who are currently in the pits? Well, the theory would say he can, and it'll be the same for Donato and also Victor Nicolai as they make their way on around. But we will have to wait and see how exactly it plays on out as he makes his way on through Apostle, and will he be able to clear them in terms of the strategies. We also, and to be fair, this is a little bit of a surprise to the system, but a welcome one. Timmy Latonen here has already cleared one pit stop. He comes on through, and I think Latonen is actually now going to make his way up the order a little bit further, as we do see that Ivan Fornes coming out of the pit, and meanwhile Simeone and Castorino still in the pit, but Timmy Latonen up to PA, and to be fair, if he's only got one more stop to go, this could work out considerably for the Audi driver, who was really off the pace early on, to be fair, and we did say he didn't look happy in qualifying, but our only Audi out on circuit today is really enjoying the racing, and I think Latonen here could be pulling off a blinder based on the form he's showing as he makes his way on through. But meanwhile, as he comes through at Villeneuve there, we see a little bit further back and towards the back of the field right now in terms of overall position, that is Martin van Munster, who's already cleared one pit stop in P23 he is, as he makes his way through at Tosa, and he has got Ivan Fornes ahead of him, and he does have a couple of drivers coming up behind him in short order who will have to give way to, as we understand it, although he does have Gareth Mills, who is making his way and quite a way back in P24 right now, and Gareth Mills trying to chase after Martin van Munster. But there's quite a bit of a gap between the two of them, and I think that battle will come on towards the end of the race if it is going to materialise. But as they make the way on through, It is a situation right now where we look from the back of the field, and I do think that Joshua Allen is retiring from this race. We have had a couple more retirements. In fact, we've only got 26 cars listed and 25 running on circuit. Joshua Allen, I think, definitely retiring. So we're down to 25 cars. We did start off this race with what was 31, but it does seem as though the conditions and just natural attrition on the cars has cost some of our drivers considerable time, and also seen some cars fall on out. But right now, speaking about drivers who are falling on out, well, it's Harry Phillips who's into the pits here. He's coming in from what was P5. Martin Ulrich, to be fair, has come on through. And actually, someone who's a bit understated here, Martin Ulrich, the McLeod Racing Team driver from Denmark here. He's yet to make a pit stop, but he's gaining a lot of lap time. He's been alone for most of the race. And for some time he's been outside of what is the top 10, but now he's making his way up the order. He's in at P5 right now. Of course, he will lose positions once he does make his pit stops, and Harry Phillips has come out of the pits quite recently. He's come back out in P8 from what I'm gathering, and as a result, well, Martin Ulrich right now could gain some places just by running in clear air and keeping his head down. And well, I think that's what he'll be hoping for. And it is the same, of course, for what is Victor Nicolai, who, having made that undercut, he'll be hoping he can gain, as Timo Latonen is into the pit from what was at the time much further up the order. And right now the Audi driver's dropped all the way down to P14 as he is being serviced. In fact, he's dropping even further down as more drivers are coming on through, but we will wait and see where he filters back on out when it's all said and done. But one driver who, as he's filtered out, he's now in a battle once again. It is Drago Simeone here, who chasing after Vaca. And to be fair, Mattia Vaca, well, the Bollers Esport driver, the Bentley, the Italian right now, he is P9 by track position. He went for an early pit stop as Timo Latonen has cleared his second and final stop. So we will need to keep our eyes on Latonen. He has cleared both stops early. He is the highest placed driver to have cleared both stops. And whilst he's going to be coming out of the pits quite a way down, probably around P17, P18, it is the case that Latonen can gain. But meanwhile, Mattia back here looking for that opportunity to defend versus Simeone. And Simeone trying to find a way through into water, but he can't quite find it. And as we ride on board here with the Bentley drivers, he makes his way out to the auto chicane. It is getting very tricky here for what is Simeone, because he is losing a huge amount of time. Mattia Vaca defending as he has the right to, and as they make the way down in towards the rat. So we're going to see a move here from Simeone, who goes to move. Vaca gives him the space, to be fair. I think Vaca wanting to cost the BMW driver some time, but not too much time as to destroy his own race. But what it does mean right now is that Drago Simeone has lost out to Harry Phillips, who's going ahead as Mattia Vaca into the pits for his second stop. Now this will likely indicate that the drivers who've just recently made their first pit stop are probably going to try and go to the end of this race and then pit literally with only 3-4 laps remaining, depending on the conditions. But with that in mind, what it does mean right now that the one driver who's right up there in front, he is leading by 22 seconds, and that is Luca Dogano. He is probably hoping he can go so long in this race as to effectively, well, he's peeling into the pits. I was going to say go so long as then to make it two quite quick stops. But right now he does peel on in, and then it will be the question of whether Oleg Zalobov comes into the pits as well, as he makes his way down towards what is the Ravazza corner here. Turn Ravazza 1 and then Ravazza 2 coming on up, and we can see many of you there enjoying the racing in the YouTube chat in particular, as we say hello to Amico Shmu 16 there, who's asking about Assetto Corsa Competition, and it's really nice to see everybody helping him out there, filling him in with regards to the banter performance and whatnot in the chat as our drivers continue to make the way on around. The racing is continuing here. We do have just under half the race still remaining, and Oleg Zabola stays out again here. He's going long, and Tinko van der Velde as well, the Williams eSports driver, who has really had a race he hasn't wanted to remember so far, because it has not gone right. Well, it is now starting to come back in his favour here. He's going very long. He's moved all the way out to P2. He is expected to drop down the order when he pits quite considerably, but right now this could be working out. Christian Embrini not too far behind either. But right now, where is Luca Dogano? He's leaving the pits, and well, Martin Ulrich has come through. He's yet to make a stop. Where's Sebastian Apostel? Well, here's Sebastian Apostel, and it's going to be the case that Luca Dogano has jumped the West Competition Racing driver, who was our leader before the pit stop, so the leaders kicked off. And as they make the way on through, it is the case that Sebastian Apostel right now has lost what we believe is the overall effective lead of this race after the first round of stops to Luca Dogano. And, well, the gap between the two of them is not much, as we see Dogano just making his way in towards Villeneuve. The gap between the two is approximately in the region of about 5 to 6 seconds, and it has not worked out right now for Apostel, but it could swing back. That is the big question. We'll have to wait and see how it swings back on the strategy. But a lot of things to now talk about now that we're we're seeing those stops coming in. For example, Harry Phillips here, who's come out behind Ivan Fornes again. That attempt at trying to essentially outfox Fornes on pit strategy has not worked out. Now look at the radar as well, ladies and gentlemen. Top right corner of your screen, you'll see in the next 30 minutes we've just had an update to tell us more rain will be coming back. The rain is lessening right now and the track is drying out quite considerably. Not in terms of the fact we're going to be going from a damp circuit to a greasy circuit anytime soon. It is the case we'll still be seeing our drivers on wets. They won't be wanting to go to slicks, and they won't be wanting to go to slicks even more now, because in the next 30 minutes that rain is going to intensify right at the end of the race, and that would be a huge gamble to try and throw a set of slicks on right at the end, but we'll wait and see. But Harry Phillips right now pursuing Ivan Fornes and being cheered on there in the YouTube chat by Valthamore Gaming as they make the way on through the Alta chicane here, and Phillips definitely showing the pace versus Fornes, but the problem is he can catch Fornes, but the Porsche just not able to have that outright grunt to be able to beat the BMW in the straight line race around here at Imola. And I think as a result, Harry Phillips, if he's going to go for the move, he's got to really go for a lunge. Alternatively, try and just simply get his car in the most inconvenient position, and in the end Fornes will have to yield as they make the way through at Rabatza 2. Now as they come on through at this point, we do look a bit further down the order because things are getting a little bit tasty further down the road, and we can see Tobias Linden here, P20 SLS racing driver, who's still yet to take his second stop, chasing after Vittorio Simone, who's made both stops. We see Chris Soiger behind as well, who is trying to close up to this in short order, but Tobias Linden right now giving up pursuit of Simeone, and as they make the way through the left into right of Villeneuve, you can actually see it is the case between the two of them. I do believe that's why the Cortec Racing Machines, who's in between, who is a lap up on these guys, and they'll be expecting both of the drivers here of Linden and Simeone to give way to the blue flags in short order as they make the way on through and up towards Piratella. But meanwhile, Chris Soiger here down in P21 and giving that pursuit, as we do see Denishenko there pulling off of the dry line there, and the Ukrainian trying to get some water back in the tyres as he makes his way through the left-hander of what is Piratella, trying to get those temps down. I think really struggling with those temperatures as he comes on down and around and in towards Aqua Minerale. But we are right now only 25 drivers remaining. We have had confirmation of the retirement of Joshua Allen, and then they couldn't get the car fixed as Denishenko goes a bit deep there, and well, track limits will be warned against him with regards to running a bit wide there coming through what was Aqua Minerale. But I think it will just be a gentle warning rather than anything too severe there, given the fact he won't have gained time. You can see how unsettled the car was, but as he makes his way around right now, we are still waiting as we look from down the order to much further up the order. We are waiting for this man, and also Tinko van der Velde and Christian Embrini and Martin Ulrich behind him. We are waiting for our top four to pull the trigger on their first pit stop in this race. Remember, there are 2 pit stops. And if you're wondering who's done pit stops and who hasn't, if you look on the timing tower on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see that between the driver's door number and their gap to the driver in front of them, it is the case they do have a number of an orange background. If it's a white number of an orange background, that means they've still got to stop, and the number dictates how many stops they've still got to make. And if it's the case that it's green, that means they have cleared their mandatory stops and they can go racing to the end. They do not need to make another pit stop. Now, with this in mind, what I think Ola Zolobov and also the drivers behind him are trying to do, they are trying to essentially get to that driest point in this session. Now, could they potentially be looking at a gamble to try and go on to slicks? I doubt it. But what they might be trying to do is essentially, towards the end of this race, go on to another set of wets where they can go full offensive on the wet tyres and do everything that they can in order to be able to go on the charge. We'll have to wait and see, however, because right now it's the case that Zolobov is just trying to hold on to that track position overall, but Tinko van der Velde is inching closer lap after lap, to be fair. If he's not matching Zolobov for pace, he is gaining on him as the Dutchman as he makes his way down and around in towards Ravatsa once again. And as they come charging down right now, we do say hello in the YouTube chat there to MJK8 and also to Severin, and well, we say hello to both of you guys. And well, with just over a third of this race remaining, 31.5 minutes remaining when Tinko van der Velde comes across the timing line. Will we see him pull into the pits? No. The Williams Esports driver stays out once again, and well, this is now becoming a war of attrition, and we'll have to wait and see as Marcus Fox into the pits from P16. And the Fox Sim Racing driver will lose the position to Timmy Latonen, there's no doubt about that, with Latonen coming on through. And I think we've also got some more drivers coming on through in very short order as our drivers continue to make their way around. Although, to be fair, we just saw that Marcus Fox completing his final pit stop of this race, and now I suspect he'll be coming out of round P18, P19. And meanwhile, we look to Harry Phillips here, who was gaming on Ivan Fornes, but now he has lost out a little bit, and I think he's perhaps backed off and decided to change tact, as we see Ivan Fornes now starting to get a bit of a move on as they make the way on through. But the fastest lap of this race has just gone to this man, the Romanian of West Competitions Racing, Sebastian Apostel here. The fastest lap of 46.902. He is absolutely flying right now. And, well, you can imagine why, because he is hunting down Luca Dogano, who is a lot further up the road by comparison. The gap between the two of them, we will get an update on that gap in short order, is 6 seconds, and Apostel is doing everything he can. He's got a bit of traffic with Chris Soiger in the face of him as they make the way on through. And as they come up towards what is Tosa Corner here, it is the case as they roll through that left-hander. That fastest lap of 46.902, well, that is a sign of things to come, because Dogano right now lapping in what is the high 47. So Apostel taking 8 tenths out of him on that lap alone and absolutely charging on through as he makes his way through the left-hander there of Piratella once again. But we look from him to Victor Nicolai here, who caught behind Donardo here. And, well, I think this is the story of the Romanian's race, which is every time he's had an opportunity to gain, he ends up getting caught behind a Cortec 1 racing machine, and this time it happens to be Rafael Donardo as they make the way in towards Piratella. This is the battle for P11, and as they roll them through the left-hander here, it is the case of Victor Nicolai not able to find a way on through right now as we do ride on board with the Romanian. And you can just see from this perspective, he's just getting very close under braking into Akman O'Reilly, but he has to stop the car dead in its tracks there through fear of tapping the back of the Mercedes driver as they make the way down into the braking zone for what is their the braking zone for the Alta chicane. And as they go through the left-hander here, it is the case, well, they're tucked in very nice and tight behind, but no way through for the BMW driver now as they make the way roaring on down towards Rabatza. Now as they come into that braking zone here, it is the case I think Nicolai's going to have to try and find a way a little bit later on in this race, and as he comes to charge them through the left-hand, no way through at the moment. He is going to have to wait, and that Mercedes AMG, to be fair, in front of him, whilst it may not be as strong through the corners, it can take those curves very reliably, and also that V8 in the front of that Mercedes just able to charge away. But you can see the difference here. Victor Nicolai staying on the dry line, and meanwhile it is the case that Donardo has to take to the water. Nicolai looking to that inside, but it's a long way back here, and he has to just tuck in behind the Mercedes. It's got so much grunt on the straights. It's all through the corners where the M4 closes up, and as they make their way through the left-hander, you can see he's getting very close. Now, will he try and cipher moves inside? We can see it is the case. Well, oh goodness me, and that was quite the lift-off there by one Donardo. I think Donardo recognising in the end the two of them are in slightly different races, and, well, it's going to be one of those situations whereby Rafael Donardo not wanting to battle anymore. I think he realises there's more to this than what's happening. But what we can see, look at that radar again, ladies and gentlemen. In the next 10 minutes, we are going to see a brief halt to the rain. Now, I'm not saying we will be seeing drivers go to slicks, but if that is what our top four are looking for right now, the option to try and go onto slicks to get to the end of the race with the thought of rain returning briefly at the end of the race, well, my goodness, we have got a huge switch up on our hands right now, because our top four are just trying to outlast the weather, and that rain is practically going. It's very fine right now, the rain. There's very little rain still falling, but what there is perhaps holding drivers back from going to slicks. But we will have to wait and see how this all plays out, because as we look from the battle for P11 to right now our leader, who is on lap number 34 and still soldiering on, the Russian of SMP Racing Esports, is Oleg Zalobov. It is the case that with a gap and advantage that is growing versus Tinko Vendeveld of now 14.5 seconds, he is really giving it everything right now, and I think he wants this. I mean, everybody wants to win, of course, but I think he is going all in and throwing the chips to the wind, as they say, because it is the case that he is showing no signs of slowing down on this opening stint. And remember, he has got to make 2 pit stops yet, and, well, if this gamble works out for him, he could see him jump all the way up the order from what was inside the top 10 to being right up there in the podium positions come the end. And the same, of course, for Van der Velde as he makes his way here up towards the Alta chicane himself. And you can see just a little bit further back, that's Christian Nembrini, 4 seconds back and closing as they make their way through the Alta chicane, both of them. And, well, I think for Nembrini right now, he'll be just pleased with how the pace is going, as the field has spaced out to an extent, but we are waiting to see how they will all come back together, because you can see our top 15 have got to at least make 1 more pit stop, so there's still plenty to gather with regards to the situation between the drivers. As meanwhile, we do see see in P9 here, Drago Simeon, well, he has got a lot of pressure building behind him, and that's Castorino, who's closed up quite rapidly. And Amadeo Castorino, be fair, these last couple of laps has been ripping time out of Drago Simeon, and well, previously it was the reverse, as into the pits, we do cut away briefly, is Oleg Zalobov, so he's decided to pull the trigger with 26 minutes to go with regards to that opening pit stop. And well, now whilst he's waiting there, Tinko van der Velde stays out, and well, with regards to rain, I can't see any rain in Sector 1, to be fair, ladies and gentlemen, or if there is, it is only a minuscule amount of rain. It's barely a drizzle, and as a result, I think Van der Velde right now, if he has been trying to run this race on a dry setup, it will now start to come to him. We'll have to wait and see. But meanwhile, Oleg Zalobov dropping down the order, of course, with the pit stop. And as our drivers make the way on around right now, Tinko van der Velde takes us on to our 36th lap of the circuit. It is the case that Harry Phillips into the pit, and as he peels on in, we see Drago Simeon holding off Castorino as Castorino falls back, but Harry Phillips is in as well off camera, and as he makes his way past my commentary window right now, I can definitely tell you that the crew are going to be going hard at work very shortly, and I do wonder what they're going to be doing for his second stop, as we see Simeon going very deep there into Tamburello, and it is the case Castorino will take confidence here that he is putting that pressure on the West Competition Racing driver, is the Q-Lash Sim Racing driver, as they make their way down towards Villeneuve. Now as they come through at this point, of course, with everything that is playing up, we can see here Ivan Fornes tucked in very close behind Zavolov, who has come out ahead of Ivan Fornes, and you can see there, that is the Bentley, as I understand it. Denishenko moving aside, and it is the case he is a lap down the Ballast Esport driver as they make the way on through, and as they come rolling on through the left hand there, they press on and come down towards Akmanaroli, but Zavolov at a time in that pit stop to perfection. He's just come out ahead of a very dangerous driver, not in terms of dangers, in terms of doing damage, but in terms of his ability to drive defensively and cost race time, and that is Ivan Fornes, who now is trying to find his way back past the S&P Racing Esports Ferrari that has jumped him for an extended stop. But do keep in mind, of course, that both of these drivers have got to make one more stop before the racing is over, but we will have to wait and see how exactly their second pit stop plays out. Now, speaking of a driver who's just made a pit stop and has cleared his pit stops now, Harry Phillips has come out in P13. He's come out in clear air, so Harry Phillips will be one to watch as well. And where will he factor in? As also coming into the pits now is Martin Ulrich, making his way in from P3. He has gone incredibly long, not the longest. Christian Embrini and Tinko van der Velde are going to outlast him, but he is one of the longest drivers on that opening stint. And well, the rain is coming back a little bit now. We have got a little bit of rain, but it is very light rain, as we see Zabolov here holding off Ivan Fornes as they both gain places off of the pit in Ulrich as they make their way down towards Tamburello here. And well, Alex Zabolov holding on, he's P5 at the moment. He is gaining ground, and it is proving to be a race which is enjoying the number 14 driver as he comes through the left hand there of turn number 4 and tries to hold off Ivan Fornes, who is not letting go, to be fair. And now Fornes going on the offensive. And as they come charged on through this time and make their way through the Villeneuve chicane, Fornes not being dropped and in a relentless pursuit right now of getting into that top 5 come the end of the proceedings. But as they make their way through Tosa, it is the case a bit further back. We do have one Drago Simeon here in P7 who is also gradually gaining on them. And to give you an idea, the last lap from Drago Simeon, a 46.8 versus Ivan Fornes on a 47.5. We can't quite give you Oleg Zalobov's time yet because he came out of the pits on the previous lap, so his lap time is in excess of 2 minutes. It's not an accurate reflection, but I can definitely tell you that Ivan Fornes right now really wanting to get past the Ferrari in front of him, because he's worried, I think, that Simeon is not too far away and is closing very rapidly as they make their way up into Auto. And indeed, as you say there, Morgan Mugadi, it is the case in the YouTube chat that Fornes in the BMW M4 is closing down and hunting down the Ferrari relentlessly as they make their way down towards Ravazza once again. But right now we're 22 minutes of the race, and we can see the rain where it's coming down a bit more in the final sector compared to sectors 1 and 2. The rain's almost stopped in sector 1 in particular. It is the case, this weather really starting to play games with all of our drivers, and Ivan Fornes just not able to close up in the exit out of what is their Ravazza. Instead he waits for the long run down the straights, but it's much like before here. It gives us an opportunity to take a quick sip of water. Now, as they make their way down into the braking zone here for what is Tamburello once again, I do wonder whether the Spaniard has got another ace up his sleeve, because I don't think he's going to find a way past at this point in time. And meanwhile, well, if we're talking about fastest laps, he's just set the fastest lap, and he's almost lost it completely. The Dragon Simo has just set the fastest lap of the race of 46.355, and with that mistake, it has cost him very dearly. As you can see, Marcus Fox there having to be muscled out of the way by Castorino. Marcus Fox being a lap down, but Castorino right there now after Simo putting in an absolutely ferocious lap. But then one mistake almost saw it fall to pieces as they make their way through Tosa, and he goes very deep there into the corner of what is Tosa. And I do wonder at this point whether it's the case in doing that fastest lap of the race, he's completely obliterated the tyres, because it is that situation whether Simon just not looking comfortable anymore as he makes his way through Piratella. Now, as they make their way downhill and in towards Ac Minerale, I think Simone is going to wonder about whether he's going to have Castorino looking for a move. Castorino waits as he goes very wide, and there goes the West Competition Racing Machine, and that's a car track limits. And I do think that Castorino and the Q-Lash Sim Racing team may be on the radio to the stewards saying that that was an unfair advantage gained. Of course, we can't comment on that. That's for the stewards to decide, but it's definitely the case that Simeon is struggling now as they make their way and around and towards the end of this lap, and as they make their way downhill in towards what is Ravazza once again. I think Castorino is going to be going for the move very shortly as they make their way into the heavy braking zone of Ravazza 1. Now, we do ride on board here with the BMW M4 driver who's in the pursuing position as they make their way through the left-hander, and you can see just the fact he's not able to get that exit out of Ravazza 2, and he's got a long way to close up now. And well, that gap doesn't look like much, but I can tell you on a straight here, such as the one that start-finish straight at Imola, it's not a long enough straight to close up, even if you do have a straight line speed advantage. And with 20 minutes to go, Amadeo Castorino's race is now being held back by Simeone ahead of him. Drago Simeone in P7 as they make the way through, and this time Simeone gets it right in towards Tamburello. He doesn't go overly deep, and they stay as they were as Castorino runs a little bit wide there and gets hooked on the exit curve. Now, as they make the way through, on the meantime, you can see it is the case as they sweep through Villeneuve there. Simeone really having to stop the car, and I think that is the problem. He just does not have the confidence in the car under braking. But we look from them down towards what is here our Bentley driver in P19 of David Breger, who we haven't seen for quite some time. The German driver has cleared both of his pit stops. He's P19 at the moment, and he's in hot pursuit of Chris Soiger. You can see the Porsche 911 GT3R, who he is pursuing right now. And as they make their way into the right-hander here of what is one Ac Minerale, turn number 10 in particular, it is the case right now, the Bowley Boys driver trying to find a way on through, but Chris Soiger, I think, proving to be the equal measure as they make their way in. And you can see now we are getting a little bit more rain in Sector 2 as well. The rain is starting to come back a little bit, and well, with that in mind, we will have to wait and see how exactly it plays out. And we do have a drive-through penalty for Ivan Fornes. Now, I'm going to double check just quickly whether that's come from our stewards or whether that is because of track limits, as Christian Embrini comes into the pits to do his first stop. And well, just checking in with the stewards, I do believe that drive-through penalty for Ivan Fornes is for track limits, because the stewards right now looking at the sheet as he comes into the pits immediately here, he won't be able to take his pit stop. He will have to go straight through the pit lane, and this is absolutely crippling to what has been a fantastic race at Joker's E-Team BMW. I do believe that that drive-through penalty is for track limits. It's not something the stewards have awarded him. It has been through the automated stewarding system of Assetto Corsa Competizione. He's pushed the limits too hard, and he has now paid the price for it, as in fact he makes his way on through, and well, it is not a happy situation. But meanwhile, looking to our leader here in the helicam, and we can see Tinko van der Velde looking very happy right now out front, having done 40 laps come the end of this lap on an opening stint. But remember, he does have to pit at some time. He will need to come on in for 2 pit stops compared to everybody else who's only got 1 left to go. And speaking of 1 left to go, Giovanni Izzo in to the pit. And meanwhile, we look from Tinko van der Velde to what is Sebastian Apostel here, who is closing up to the back of Luca Dogano. He has been closing up for some time. And as they make their way through the corners, it is the case that we can see that right now Sebastian Apostel just really bearing down on the Cortec 1 racing machine in the West Competition Racing BMW M4. And as they make their way all the way down towards Ravazza now, I do wonder as Tinko van der Velde comes into the pit, it is the case that right now the Williams Esports driver will know he's going to lose position. But look at the track surface, ladies and gentlemen. You can see it downhill there as they come down to Ravazza. It's almost bone dry in the run down there, although we have got a little bit of rain. In fact, the rain has briefly stopped, and now I do wonder, with the track becoming green greasy. The rain has stopped in Sector 3. I think we've still got a little bit of rain at Sector 2 right now, but Apostle looking for the move here, and this will be for the lead as Tinko van der Velde's having his first pit stop, and it is the case right now. These two are your leaders. Apostle's looking to the inside into Tamburello. He can't quite find it. He has to back out, and as they make their way through the left-hander of turns 2 and into right-hander of 3 and then left-hander of 4, it is the case the chicane complete. Now Apostle will try to go on the offensive once again, but that dry line so noticeable right now. It's naked versus the remaining standing water on the circuit, although there's not much left, so anybody who's on overheating wet tyres is only going to feel even more pain. And you can see Dagano goes defensive into the toaster hairpin, and as they make the way on through, well, you can see it's the case. He can't quite find a way through Apostle right now as we ride on board here with the BMW M4 driver flashing his lights, trying to get in the head there of the Mercedes in front of him, trying to distract him as they make their way in towards Piratella. This is for the lead of the race. We've got 16 minutes to go. One more mandatory pit stop to go for these guys and the drivers behind them, with Victor Nicolai coming into the pits to clear his second stop down in P8, and we see that Dagano goes deep, and it's the case Apostle can't find a way on through Aquaminerale there as they make the way up the hill once again. But my goodness, the battle in between these two is going to go down to the wire, and every corner they battle, every second they take out one another, enables Oleg Zalobov to close up in P3 right now. He's currently 15 seconds down, but with the amount of time they've ripped out one another so far in this lap, you can imagine that 15-second deficit ain't going to last long as they make the way down towards Ravazza once again. Now it is the case that Apostle, the fastest man on circuit, is last out of 46.135. He knows he has got the pace here to get his way past the Mercedes in front of him, but where will he do it? And I do think for Apostle, he's got to try and just simply get the best possible run. And you can see on the straight here, he just does not have the speed as the rain starts to come back once again. You can see he's put the wipers on. The rain has returned. And as they make the way this time down towards the corner, will he have an opportunity? Into Tamburello. He looks through it and he goes all the way in. He commits on the brakes. There's contact between the two of them and he understeers. And I think the stewards will be taking a very close look at that one. Both drivers would argue that it's the case that the other drivers should have given them the room. Well, I think it's more the case that Dagano would argue that he was pushed off, but Apostle is going to battle him side by side down into Villeneuve, and he's going to take the lead of this race. But again, for how long, given it could be argued by some that was a push to pass, and Dagano is not happy. He's coming back immediately here, wanting that position back. But my goodness, it is the case that the gloves are off between these two, and right now they are ripping time out of one another because Zavolov, that last lap, took 2 seconds out of these two, and he is closing, but they carry on fighting as Dagano tries to go all the way around the outside at Piratella. You don't see that often in the dry, and in the wet, well, that is an absolute unicorn of a pass, and they keep going side by side here down into Aquaminerale. My goodness, and they make it through the tiniest of taps there. And I think Dagano would argue, well, you gave me a tap off at Villeneuve, so I'm going to give you a tap off at Aquaminerale. And they continue, but Dagano is back into the lead of this race. But both drivers there with that contact, my goodness, it is the case, both of them now. Well, we're only 2 rounds into the season, and I definitely think we have a rivalry which is going to last a lot longer than just the opening 2 rounds, because my goodness, these two absolutely relentless. And with 13 minutes remaining right now, they both want this win as they make the way through Ravazza. A bit further down the road, however, it is Amadeo Castorino here, who in P5 chases down Tinko van der Velde, who, to be fair, has jumped Castorino. He's jumped all the way. To give you an idea, Tinko van der Velde, when the pit stop started for the leaders, Van der Velde was down in P12. He has jumped to P4 by just running out on circuit longer than most, and that's how much time he's gained. So it's credit to him, and for the fact he's in the foreground of this camera shot right now is through his strategy and his determination to make that strategy work, as right now Castorino will need to find a way to close down the Mercedes in front of him. But as they come charging on down and in towards what is the Tamburello chicane once again, I can definitely tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the stewards are hard at work right now analysing the battle between the top two, and we'll have to wait to see. As soon as I hear anything, I will definitely let you know. But right now, they are studying all the footage back and all the different camera angles, and I'm not going to intervene in that one. But meanwhile, we can see Castorino here also being reeled in by Drago Simone, who is closing up in P6. Donado's into the pits from P8 at this point in time as I see him go by my commentary box window, and that promotes Martin Ulrich, another unsung hero of strategy, staying out long. But we only have 12 minutes left. And I think the majority of our drivers yet to clear their final pit stop are all trying to go as long as possible, but the rain is coming back, and in the remaining 10 minutes the radar says the rain is going to intensify considerably. This race is going to be turned on its head once again, and we will have to wait and see how it all plays out with regards to the rain. But meanwhile, one driver who is hoping that things work out is Harry Phillips here, who in P9, he's cleared both stops. He's got an 8-second gap to Martin Ulrich, which he will definitely clear when Martin Ulrich comes into the pits. But how far can Harry Phillips go up the order, knowing that even with that success ballast in the car of 8 kilograms, he's going to be pulling off a top 10 today if it all stays as is. Franchidi's into the pit, down to P16 he goes. Donato has just left the pit lane, coming out in P11, and right now Sebastian Apostel is into the pit from P2. He's decided enough's enough. He doesn't want to be behind Dogano anymore. He's going for the undercut, but will this work out, or will Luca Dogano, who we see here making his way in to the Tamburello chicane, fighting with the nose of the steering wheel there as the rain starts to build up on the track surface and the track goes from greasy to damp once more. It is the case that both of these two, of course, will have the steward's eyes on them, as meanwhile a bit further down the road it's Oleg Zabolov here who's got a bit of traffic to deal with. Franchini just in front of him there, the P17 drivers. He's come out in P17, but I think Franchini will move out the way immediately. He does indeed, and the S&P Racing esports driver here charging on, and to be fair, even if he doesn't bring home the win here today, I think Zabolov is going to be taking a lot to round number 3 in terms of confidence, because this has worked out massively. But meanwhile, the big question is, where has Sebastian Apostel come out of the pits? He's come out in clear air. He's come out P6, or sorry, P7. He's come out behind Christian Embrini, who's a bit up the road, and for the remaining, this could be the ultimate pit stop. Now, will Dogano react? Will he pit at the end of this lap? That is the big question. Or will Dogano stay out long? Well, we'll have to wait and find out. But meanwhile, Martin Ulrich here in P8 still yet to do a stop, and we can see as he makes his way on through, the McLeod Racing Team driver here, I think he'll be lightly dropping down somewhere to around P13 when he does his second stop, but we'll wait and see. And it's Harry Phillips behind him, who right now only 8 seconds behind is trying to close up as rapidly as possible, as it's the case Ulrich makes his way through Tosa. But as he comes on through, we look a bit further down the order right now, and it is Chris Boyega here who's continuing to pursuit of Franchini. You can see David Boyega behind him in the Bentley. It is the case the Porsche driver from CHF Motorsport sandwiched between the two Bentleys as he makes his way down in towards Ravazza. And for Chris Zoiger at this point, I think the number 25 driver will just want to try and take one more place off Franchini as they come through Ravazza here, and that rain continues to build up. Less than 10 minutes to go now. You can see the wipers are coming back on for all of our drivers. They know that the rain is going to play a factor right at the end here, and well, now it's all about who is the bravest with regards to the racing, as we see coming into the pits, and very unfortunate is Dragos Simeon here coming into the pits, and well, it's unfortunate here. And remember, it is the case he makes his way on in. It's one of those situations where he will now drop down the order quite considerably. It has not gone the way he will have wanted it to in terms of racing for the win of this race, but we will wait and find out where he is going to be when it's all said and done. But meanwhile, the story, Luca Dogano currently leading by 12.6 seconds ahead of Oleg Zalobov, who right now is not close enough anymore now that Dogano is no longer under pressure and having to battle. So it is the case that he's got a lot of breathing room and he is putting in the laps once more. And as he makes his way on through right now, it's the case, excuse me, that Dogano, I think, just trying to time that final pit stop to perfection. And meanwhile, we look from him to what is Sebastian Apostel here, who's come out ahead of where is Dragos Simeon. And where is Simeon, I hear you ask? Well, we're just waiting to see where he is on our circuit map. We can't quite see him at the moment. I think he's down in P8. I think it's Harry Phillips who's jumped him. No, he hasn't. In fact, so Harry Phillips is P9 chasing after. No, it is the case that he has got ahead of Simeon. My apologies. And you can actually see Dragos Simeon just a little bit further back. And there he is coming out of the chicane right now. And that is how Harry Phillips has jumped up the order by taking that early pit stop and undercutting, as we now only have 8 minutes to go, and Harry Phillips moves up to P8 here, and I think he's due to gain a couple more places before all is said and done, as right now the West Competition Racing driver Dragos Simeon will try to hunt down the Wild Things Racing Porsche ahead of him that we're looking at now, with only a limited amount of time remaining. But we still do have what is the best part of 6 drivers yet to make their final stops. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out for them. There's plenty of time to go, and well, whilst we are waiting, waiting for those final pit stops. Anything can happen. Remember, the skies are opening up with the rain once more. As we see the comment there from Hupo in the YouTube chat, wets will be faster now as the rain is coming down. And, well, it is the case with wets being faster, as we do see one Amadeo Castorino. He's cleared his pit stop here. It's just a quick fuel stop. He's going to drop down the order a little bit. Where is Apostle? Well, Apostle's coming across the line, so Apostle will retake what we believe is the effective lead on strategy here in the race, but he's still got the quandary of whether Luca Dogano has outpaced him since he's gone for the undercut. That is the question we're all waiting for the answer for, and we're not going to get the answer immediately. We're going to have to wait for a couple more minutes before we're going to see it. It will all come down to the final couple of minutes of this race, and when it does happen, you can imagine it is going to erupt right now. And well, the rain is gradually increasing, and that is going to also have an influence in terms of the overall lap time as our driver continues to make their way on around. But meanwhile, we look from what is our 5th place driver to our battler between the two Bentleys here, Chris Sawyer and P19, who finds himself heavily compressed behind Franchini as they come up into the rain zone for Alta. As they make their way into the chicane here, you can see how under braking Zoya is able to close up to Franchini, but in return, in this case, David Brega is also close up as Tinko van der Velde behind them. We'll be expecting the blue flags to be respected here by these three drivers. And well, here's the horrible thing: when you're someone like Chris Sawyer or alternative David Brega, you're in this three-way battle. You don't want to fall out of the battle, but you know the blue flags are waving. It's almost as if you're trying to say to your parents when you're young, Mum, Dad, can I just do one more lap before I give way? And well, it is the case. I think Tinko van der Velde pulls into the pits. He's decided, you know what, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm going to take my pit stop. And I think it's a smart move there from the Williams Esports driver, as he is still waiting now on what is the mercy of the drivers who have already made both of their stops, and will have to wait and see how this all comes on down. Where is Sebastian Apostle? That is the first question we have to answer. Well, he's just making his way through Avatsa 2, so he will clear Tinko van der Velde. Van der Velde has already made his pit stop. It was just a quick splash and dash, literally a litre going in, and that's it. Now Sebastian Apostle making his way on through, and as he makes his way across that timeline, I can see Tinko van der Velde making his way past my commentary box window, and what that effectively means is Apostle will retake the lead of the strategy. Where is, by comparison, Martin Ulrich comes in? Where is Castorino? Well, Castorino is just making his way out of the final corner now, so Tinko van der Velde is going to jump both Castorino and also Harry Phillips, I do believe, because Tinko van der Velde is still leaving the pit lane, but he's got a stop and go 30-second penalty as he comes out the pits, and he was on course to be in a three-way battle, but van der Velde, for speeding on pit entry, it has cost him the opportunity to battle for the podium right at the end. And well, van der Velde just cannot get any luck. If it's not engine failure at Zandvoort, it's pit lane penalties at Imola. And my goodness, this means that effectively we are going to be seeing a shake-up in the order, as Harry Phillips right now pursuing Castorino relentlessly here and has been closing him down lap after lap. We still have three drivers yet to pit, and it is the case, well, they'll all be waiting, but Tinko van der Velde right now with that stop and go 30-second penalty. You can see Drago Simeone here behind him. I think it's the case that the remaining driver will be absolutely foaming at the mouth right now, because he'll be thinking if van der Velde's got a stop and go 30-second penalty, he doesn't need to defend. Will be fair, van der Velde can do what he likes until he serves that penalty, as long as he keeps it within the rule book. And you can see Drago Simeone pushing it to the limit, and it is not working out for the West Competition Racing driver. He has literally fallen out of these battles at the worst possible time, and with 4 minutes to go right now, I think it may be the case that he's going to miss out on a podium at this rate as he goes charging down towards Alta. And well, van der Velde's race is now in the bin in terms of opportunity to take the win, or at least take a podium, and we'll have to see who is going to be out of Apostle, Dogano or Zlobov as they make the way on through. The rain is falling again, and the rain is gradually intensifying, as I was saying. This is only going to build it up to crescendo as they make the way on through. We're still waiting our top three to pit. They'll probably pit on the last lap they can pit in order to be able to give themselves as much time out circuit. Because remember, when you come into the pits, you're not at full speed. So as a result, tyre temperature does disappear out of the car. There's Tinko van der Velde coming in for the stop and go 30-second penalty, which he'll be kicking himself for. And meanwhile, it is the case that Harry Phillips in that hot pursuit here of Castorino, but I think he's lost out a little bit this lap around as they make the way onto what for them is lap number 48, and at least 2 more to go for these drivers as they make the way into Tamburello. And it is continuing to build up, and our leaders have yet to take their final pit stop. It is the case that Luca Dogano, Oleg Zalobov and also Christian Lembrini are all staying out and trying to outlast the race. They just want track position to try and hold on, but as they make the way on around right now, Ivan Fornes, a driver who was hit with drive-through penalty early on, he will gain from Tinko van der Velde serving that stop and go 30-second penalty, and I think he'll be best pleased with that. He'll he'll get himself back into the top 10 at least, but he'll know that today was not his day, and we'll just up the road from him, to be fair. And the driver who is again enjoying a good performance is Timi Latonen. But enough about Timi Latonen, I'm sorry to say that, because into the pits comes your race leader Luca Togano, and well, Oleg Zavovov has also pulled on in. They've got to come in because this is the last lap, and Christian Embrini right now making his way down towards Ravazza, and only 5 seconds back and continuing to close is Sebastian Apostel. Now, where is Sebastian exactly? You can see him here making his way down right now into the brain zone for Ravazza. Well, Luca Togano has just finished his pit stop, and to give you an idea, he's making his way out right now. So Oleg Zavolov is just pulling into the pit lane, and well, as he makes his way out, it's a long run as Christian Embrini comes in, and here is Apostle as we look to the heli camera to give you an idea. Will he be able to jump him, or will he not? He makes his way past Zavolov, and he's made his way past Togano, and that means Sebastian Apostel, with 1 lap to go, less than 2 minutes to go, is now your race leader. He has made it back out ahead, and he's done it through undercutting versus Togano, and the two of them came to blows, and well, we'll have to wait and hear from the stewards. Well, I think the stewards have decided there's no further action required. Luca Togano has come out in P2, Oleg Zabolov has come out in P3 here, and well, he has come out quite a way ahead of Amadeo Castorino, who is now in P4, and Harry Phillips P5, Simone in P6, and my goodness, with what is the battles there between the drivers, in the end it has been settled on the strategy, and it has been an undercut that was given Apostle the return to the lead. Meanwhile, where's Christian Embrini, I hear you ask? Well, here he is coming out the pits in P8, and he has come out behind Victor Nicolai, but he's got quite a gap to Timi Latonen. And I think right now for Nembrini, he will feel as though this is all in the bag, and it's all looking good for him as he makes his way on around. But as he soldiers on through, it is the case that we do look back up to our leader here as he makes his way through Akminerali, and it may be the case, no, he's not going to be getting in another lap. He'll be close to putting in what will be a potential 50th lap, but I think we are going to finish under 49 laps of racing as the rain is building up once again here, and it's now only 3 more corners to go. It's a right-hand kink. He has got a little bit of traffic in front of him, Marcus Fox here, but I don't think Apostle will mind given the fact that that traffic is not too severe. But as he makes his way on down through the left-hander of Vatsa 1, it's 1 more corner to go, and this race has ebbed and flowed for the West Competition Racing driver, but in the end I think he always knew that it was going to come his way, even with the contact with Dogano. And as he makes his way to the timeline in round number 2 at Imola, it will be Sebastian Apostel from West Competition Racing who takes the win by a significant margin over Luca Dogano in the end. A fantastic drive from Sebastian Apostel, and Luca Dogano in the end, whilst he missed out on the win, I think a proud P2, 8.5 seconds down on the race winner. And then it is Oleg Zavolov who comes home P3, the S&P Racing Esports team doing a fantastic job with the Ferrari driver, and the Russian bringing home another superb strategic drive with Amadeo Castorino P4, Harry Phillips in a deserved P5 in the end. The Briton, despite the success ballast, making that car work. Drago Simon P6, it didn't work out for him today on the strategy, just came out every single time behind a driver who was going to be in his way. Victor Nicolai P7, Christian Embrini in the end is going to come home in P8 when all is said and done as he crosses the timing line, and then it will be in another strategic race where he's just simply had a quiet one, but the Finn is rather finicky at the wheel of that Audi R8. It's Timi Latonen who comes home in P9, another great drive from the Finn, making that Audi outperform its expectations. Ivan Fornes meanwhile coming home in a P10, and that drive through costing him the shot at P5, and he will know that, but the Joker's E-Team have come a long way since the season opener. Mattia Vacca P11 for Team Bollers Esport in the Bentley, a great drive there from the Italian. P12 to Giovanni Izzo, and then we've got Martin Ulrich P13 with what is Rafael Donato P14, and then Vittorio Simone P15 with what is a bit further back down the road, but let's not forget about Andrea Francini coming across the line in P16 when all is said and done, as he makes his way to the timeline here. And then I think a bit further down we've got Chris Zoiger here who makes his way past David Brega, who does have that 15-second penalty that will be added to his race time. So Chris Zoiger P17, David Brega P18, and then Tinko van der Velde P19, and then completing our top 20, Marcus Fox there, who comes round to complete his race. Well, ladies and gentlemen, absolutely fantastic race, and don't go anywhere because we'll be back within the next 3 to 5 minutes for post-race podium interviews. You won't want to miss them.
Green light. Go, go, go.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for our post-race podium interviews with our drivers. And my goodness, before we come on to talking to our race winner, Sebastian Apostel, what a fantastic race from start to finish. We had the weather, we had the strategy, we had on-track battles, we had some elbows coming out, and indeed fast and ferocious racing. But I think we can all agree, absolutely superb from start to finish. And well, let's hear from the driver right at the tip of the spear, and that is Sebastian Apostel. Let's bring him on in. Hello, Sebastian. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sebastian, congratulations on what was a superb drive from start to finish. How does it feel to have taken the win in round number 2 of the World Tour?
Thank you very much and good evening, everyone. Very good race from my side. I think strategy wasn't exactly on point, but we made it work. Very good fight with Luca also.
So it worked out really well for yourself from start to finish. Qualifying looked really good, and in the end, right up there at the front. How did you feel qualifying went? Was there more time out there, or did you feel that that dry line that was forming to the end just came your way?
Yeah, maybe 1/10 at most. Luca looked quicker in qualifying, but I think he missed his lap or something.
Oh, indeed. And then taking that pole position in qualifying and then going into the race itself, what was your strategy for the opening portion of the race? Because we saw the rain really started to come down after 30 minutes. Were you hoping for increasing rain, or were you sort of just wait and see how the weather would go?
We just waited. We took 80 liters of fuel, I think. That was enough for half of the race. And then go from there, see what happens.
Oh, most definitely. And then once you'd done that first pit stop, we saw in the end you came out in quite a bit of clear track, and you seem to always find a way just to give yourself a good amount of space out in the circuit. Was that the idea? Every time you came into the pits, just come out in clear track and just be able to gain as much lap time as possible?
Yes. We just try to give it all on track.
Oh, indeed. And I have to bring this up. The battle between yourself and Luca Dogano going into turn number 2, going down into the chicane. Quite a bit of contact between the two of you. I think both of you giving one another the best you could give. What was it like battling side by side with Dogano?
Quite sweaty, to be honest. We gave each other space, and that's the most important. Very fun battle with him.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant to hear. And I do have to ask, when you saw at the end, after you'd done your second pit stop, made your way past the pit lane, and it was the case that Dogano was still exiting the pits and you took the lead of the race, what was going through your mind?
I knew I didn't need to get another warning for track limits.
Oh, goodness me. Was it a case that you only had one warning left and it would have been a drive-through?
Yeah.
Oh dear. Well, with that in mind, of course, crossing the finish line as our winner in round number 2, and a fantastic drive from start to finish. How are you feeling going into round 3 in a week's time when we head to Laguna Seca?
Laguna Seca is a new track for me. I hope to learn it pretty quickly and give it all again.
Oh, well, we look
forward
forward.
Next race.
We look forward to how you get on in round number 3. But until then, Sebastian, thank you for joining us in the interview room, and congratulations once again on a fantastic drive to take the win at Imola. So hearing there from Sebastian Apostel, very happy with his performance in the end. And well, you can definitely tell with regards to, as you were saying, with the battle with Luca Dogano, quite a sweaty battle of the side-by-side. But they gave one another space, and to be fair, they did give one another space, although there was a little bit of contact there. But I think in the end, the stewards decided that because of the way it played out with the initial pass into the opening chicane and then the return pass from Dogano later on the lap, I think it settled and they balanced out. Of course, I think both drivers will be getting a warning post-race, sort of, you know what, don't let it go more beyond that. But we love to see battling like that, of course, because they absolutely go for it. But we now come from our driver who took the win to our driver in second place, a very deserved second place. And let's bring Luca Dogano into the interview room. And, well, I must say, ladies and gentlemen, we will also have with us Rafael Donardo here, and I do believe that it may be because Luca Dogano's English may not be too fluent. So I think Rafael Donardo, his teammate from Core Tech 1 Racing, will be joining and acting as an interpreter. So just give us a brief moment. We're just going to get things sorted here, about 10 to 20 seconds. Good evening, Luca and Raphael. How are you both?
Good evening, good evening. I'll help a bit Luca with the English since
My English
he's
is very
not...
bad.
That's no problem at all. Well, thank you for joining me in the interview room. And firstly, let me say, Luca, congratulations on second place at Imola in very tricky conditions. How does it feel to have come home second?
Thank you for the congrats. And let's
Luca,
talk,
praticamente ti fa complimenti per la seconda posizione. Come arrivare secondo?
Arrivare secondo è bellissimo. Poi Raffa continua tu perché io
So
voglio
Luca
dire.
said P2 in these conditions is very, very, very a beautiful result because the conditions were very, very variable. And he had a setup based on more water instead of dry track. And so he's very, very happy to finish the race in P2.
Well, that's absolutely brilliant to hear. And we were hearing a moment ago from Sebastian Apostel saying that in qualifying, very close between yourself, Dogano, and Apostel. And he reckons that you may have got it wrong on your final lap. Did you make a mistake on your final qualifying lap? Because you did look as though you're on course of pole position.
Ho fatto un errore, in realtà avevo un doppiato davanti, avrei potuto fare pole, ma l'ultima curva avevo un doppiato e quindi non ho potuto fare meglio.
Yes, Luca said basically he was improving his lap, but because of a back marker, he lost a few times, and then he finished second the quali.
Oh, indeed. And then going into the race, what was your strategy given the fact that we had very changing conditions? I think you were saying about you were expecting more water, but did you get to execute your strategy or did you have to change it midway through the race?
Basically, the strategy was to not change the tires because we were hoping for more water, but at some point the how it's called, the weather prediction went for no rain, and we were a bit screwed. But so we had the tires were a bit high on pressure at the end, and so we had to adapt to those conditions, and we were hoping that the rain in the end would come a little sooner, but that's it.
That's fair enough, and whilst the rain didn't come, still a very good gamble in the strategy, where it did mean in the end you were right up there in the battle for the lead. And I do have to ask, the battle with Apostel towards the end of the race, side by side through the opening chicane, side by side all the way round the lap into Acqua Minerale. Just take us through that battle, because that was incredible.
Ok, a second. Luca, devi raccontare la tua battaglia col primo.
È stata molto intensa la mia battaglia col primo. Ho commesso un errore, anzi ha commesso un errore lui alla Villeneuve, e al tornante in salita siamo rimasti appaiati e successivamente le 3 curve prossime siamo stati side by side e quindi è stato molto molto bello, soprattutto passarlo internamente alle acque minerali.
Luca said it was very, very intense. He was looking at the Helicorsa up to not make contact with Sebastian, and was a very, very tough opponent, and he is very, very happy that he managed to resist a bit against Sebastian. That was really, really, really strong in this race.
Oh, indeed. We all loved it, and I think everybody tuning in absolutely loved the battle between the two of you. And, well, in the end, second place, by no means a mean feat, a fantastic drive to second. And now looking ahead, of course, to Laguna Seca in a week's time. We head to the United States. How are you feeling for the Californian circuit?
Luca, come te la senti per Laguna?
Laguna è una pista molto complessa, soprattutto sappiamo che Porsche va molto forte, quindi daremo il massimo per quella pista.
So Luca said that Laguna is a very tough track for us, for the Mercedes, because we know that the Porsche is very, very, very strong, and I think we have little to no chance against Whitehead. That is very, 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 very strong. But we do what we could do. We will do our best, and we hope for a good race.
Oh, well, fingers crossed for you in round number 3 in a week's time. But until then, thank you very much for joining us in the interview room. And also thank you to yourself, Raphael, for acting as Luca's interpreter and joining us as well. Really do appreciate that. And we wish you both the best of luck for round number 3. And congratulations once again on your results today.
Thanks a lot for this opportunity to help Luca. Lastly, he wants to thank the team sponsor, the Coretec GRX Tech, Drive Game Seat, PC and phone, and lastly, the eSport One Driving Simulator Center from Rende.
Well, I definitely think they'll appreciate the shout out live on air, and that's no problem at all. And well, I'm sure many of them are tuning in.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
No problem. All the best and grazie.
The Italian was good.
That's the only Italian I know.
Okay.
So hearing there from Luca Dogano and well his fellow teammate and acting as translator Rafael Donardo, really good to hear from the pair of them. And well, in the end, Luca was saying there with regards to the fact that it didn't quite go the way he wanted the race to go with respect to the weather conditions, and they were hoping for the rain to be a little bit longer or come on stronger towards the end of the race. But sometimes you play it that way and it doesn't quite work out. And well, you can imagine that for our drivers, it's one of those situations whereby the strategy was good, but they didn't quite have it at the end of the day. But now we go to what is our third place man, Oleg Zavolov there. And it is the case, the S&P Racing Esports driver. Now, I have had a message from Oleg to say that he really enjoyed today's race. Unfortunately, he can't take part in post-race interviews as currently his speaking English is, in his opinion, not good enough yet. Although he has written me a little bit just to say that he really did enjoy the racing today, and he's hoping to join us for a post-race interview perhaps towards the end of the season as he continues to work on his speaking English. But really, if we're to talk about Oleg Zalobov's race, I think it really comes down to the fact that despite he had the success ballast in the car of what was the 12 kilograms, he made the strategy work by simply staying out long. And he was never really in a battle. After the opening 10 to 15 minutes, he wasn't really on camera, he wasn't in any close battles, and it meant he could just keep putting in the laps to his heart's content. And whereas everybody else was battling with one another, it gave him the opportunity just to gain time on the field, and that's why he finished in the end in the deserved P3. And definitely to one to watch out for at Laguna Seca, where overtaking is really going to come at a premium, and it's going to be the mid-engine rear-wheel drive cars that are going to be strong, we reckon. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. And if you want to know more about the Next Gen Racing community, the series we host, and what we do, why not check us out, our official website. That's the Next Gen Racing website, nextgenracing.co.uk. Alternatively, our official Facebook group. If you're on Facebook, that's facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing. Also, a big thank you to our partners without whom we'd not be able to bring you this series, and that is firstly the SimGrid, thesimgrid.com, and also Coach Dave Academy, that's coachdaveacademy.com. But now we wrap up in Italy and we start making our way to the United States of America for the sunshine state of California and the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, round number 3, ladies and gentlemen. It's a week away, Tuesday the 1st of March 2022. We're expecting plenty of superb racing action there, and indeed, if the Intercontinental Challenge Championship from 2021 is anything to go by, there is sure to be drama and there is sure to be a lot on the line at Laguna Seca. But until then, thank you very much for tuning in to tonight. It is the case that that's all we've got time for today, and well, we have been Next Gen Racing. I have been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Brit in a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.